Well, this time last week, we packed up the trucks from the season opener at Daytona International Speedway, and just one short week later, we go just a couple miles down the road to Homestead Miami Speedway for the second round of the Geezer Authentics Truck Series in the ninth season of the Bandit Racing League. Welcome to Homestead Miami Speedway. I am, as always, as always for this season, it is still a relatively new occurrence, but I am your, dashing commentary production lead here, Mr. Marshall Crocker Jr., taking over the broadcast once again from Evan Wall Media after he took over for the last two seasons in the Bandit Racing League. But tonight we got the second round of our season at the classic Homestead Miami Speedway, a constant fixture on the NASCAR schedule for a number of years now, formerly the final track of the NASCAR season. Last week we started at Daytona, which has been the first race, the calendar for the NASCAR series, the top three series for as long as I can remember. And for a long time, Homestead was the closer, and it was for good reason because Homestead Miami Speedway is just such a fun track, so very technical for an oval, but at the same time has some great multi-groove racing, and I'm sure it's going to make for some absolutely barn burner results here as we go forward into tonight's event. But as we quickly throw up the qualifying results as they stand, we're just going to have a bit of an unusual intro to tonight's race because of the new way that we are going about doing qualifying. For the Bandit Racing League, at least as long as we have these really big turnouts that we had, like last week at Daytona, where a couple drivers like Ricky Hart Jr. were unable to make the field. So we have this new qualifying procedure that means we have to go in two sessions here in the series. We have one session specifically for qualifying to decide who makes it into the field here at Homestead Miami or whatever other track we were to do on any given week. And then after that, we will move into the proper race session. We got a few little segments in the middle there before we get off to the official race. So for now, these are your qualifying results here. And the top 43 drivers in tonight's event will make it into qualifying, meaning currently Terry Condis, James Hartley, and Charles Oberg are not making the field. They are not in the top 43, and thus, if they do not improve their time on their second lap, they are out of the session. Currently nobody on track because we are just finishing up qualifying, so sorry that we couldn't hop into the qualifying action a little bit sooner, but it does give us a quick opportunity before we need to switch over to that other session to get going with the proper race. It does give us a little bit of time to talk about the track itself, and well, now we go to our co-commentator for the second week in a row. He made his debut last week, and it was a pleasure to have him. It was a nice new dynamic, but for the first time since having Evan Wall out of the booth, it felt like we didn't really miss a beat. It was so great to have you there, Mitch, and now well, we went to Daytona, we got all that out of the way. You got to start the season off at a super speedway, all the chaos. But, in a lot of the drivers' minds, tonight is really the first real race of the season. You could argue the first time at a real technical track that takes just a ton of driver skills. So from your personal experience, I know you said you ran laps here this week, how different are you expecting the second race of the season to be compared to the last week's opener at Daytona?
Well, the only thing they have in common is they're both an oval. Outside of that, that's about it. Here at this track, you got three lanes to drive in. You got the low line, the middle line, and the high line, and each one of them are going to drive a little bit differently. It's one of my favorite tracks to race at, but I am by no means great at this. There's going to be some guys who could put a second on me a lap, but as far as a track goes, it's one of the places where the driver can truly make a difference, and that's what real drivers really enjoy. And it's going to be the key here is going to be patience with the car because it is tight. Like as soon as you step on the gas, it wants to go towards the wall if you're on the low line. And then on the high line, you got to use the gas to turn the car. So it's a totally different dynamic, and you have to adapt as the race goes on. So it's going to be kind of fun to see how these guys make themselves, how they adapt themselves basically to this track and how they manage their tires and how they manage their fuel. And it's going to be fun to see. Looking forward to it.
It is. Tire management's going to be such an important thing, and I mean Daytona was kind of the opposite of a tire management track last week. He really didn't have to think about them at all. If anything, it was just fuel strategy, and in the end, with some late cautions there at Daytona, that really didn't come into play too much. So that's really the going to be the most important thing to remember as a driver, and it's really going to separate the best from the rest when it comes to who has what it takes to make it over the course of a 100-lap race here at Homestead, and who may be quick at the beginning, who may be quick in qualifying, and then struggle towards the end as the tire wear peters off. But just quickly, we can go back and jump into the final results for qualifying, which is just finishing up now. So we can get that set up for you momentarily, or, well, I guess we can't. It hasn't decided to update yet. So again, we are going to have a transition period where we go into the new session, and then we will head off and get into your proper racing action tonight at the Moo Makes 100. Just want to get a quick opportunity to talk about before we really break down tonight's grid. You can see on the ticker up top, those are your official results for qualifying now that everybody has run a time. And again, just to reiterate, we had 46 drivers in the field tonight. It was the total number of drivers that registered for the race, and only 43 were able to make it. So those 3 drivers that are eliminated again are Terry Condis, James Hartley, and Charles Oberg. Unfortunately, were the 3 that, currently we're the 3 to not make it into qualifying. We're just off the cutoff time. But yeah, just want to quickly shout out our sponsor for tonight's race. That is Moo Makes. They are a t-shirt design company that is kind enough to sponsor tonight's event. And they make all sorts of cool stuff. I was checking out their Instagram. I got linked to a couple cool designs, and they've worked on some stuff in the past. And I think there's talks that they're going to put together some, more bandit-specific stuff and kind of work with the series to make some cool designs for us. So they are in the description there. We got a bit of a rundown for you there to find out more about them. And they were kind enough to sponsor the race, so be sure to check out their Instagram, which is linked in the description. There's all sorts of cool designs there, and I'm sure you can reach out for inquiries if you have interest. But I know they are going to be doing some stuff here with the Bandit Racing League and working with us to make some cool stuff. And it's always nice to see what we make, whether it be for Geezer Authentics or any sort of thing like that. Maybe some new trophies, some new plaques, just anything that we do for the drivers. I think is always really special. Just because as a free series, one where we don't give proceeds back to the drivers. It's not a series racing for money. Because that has its own complications. But it's really nice to be able to give back to the drivers and give something meaningful. And unfortunately, as being up in Canada, pretty far away from most of the drivers in the series, it's hard to get anything up here. But I'd wear the heck out of a Bandit shirt if I was given one. So maybe we'll see if we can hook that up here in the near future. But for now, before we get into the additional details, let's just go back to your proper timing tower here. Let's jump over and put up your timing tower for tonight's event. So you can see that they're cycling through on the bottom, but tonight's pole sitter, well, he's back, ladies and gentlemen. It was only a matter of time before we had our, defending series champion and, the guy that, you're probably more than familiar with if you've watched this series for any more than last week's race. Mr. Nick Nickerson is on the pole. The 2 cars setting a lap time of 33.3, so pretty consistent numbers there on Mr. Nickerson's time. And, from what I've seen all week with fast times here in qualifying, from what you can do on the very beginning of a stint, that is an absolutely rocket time. But at the same time, it was interesting with the new qualifying format because you did have to balance as a driver. You want to set a fast time, you want to be towards the top of the pole, but at the same time, you don't want to get eliminated. So before we go through the entire field, we'll see if our qualifying results get officially updated. But Mitch, from your perspective as a driver, I know you didn't have the system last season when you were in the series, but if you had to worry about the prospect of hitting the wall both laps, having both your laps in qualifying, discounted, while still trying to run as quick as you can to set a pole lap, like what does that do to you as a driver to have both of those situations in your head at all times?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the biggest thing is to do just don't hit the wall. I mean, that's the simplest way around it. Is like don't hit the wall. We had this discussion earlier in the week, and some people didn't really like that response, but that's just the way it is. It's up to the driver to make a clean lap. I mean, it's tough and it's not great. It's not ideal. But if you go in and practice, you're not going to have that problem. And to be honest with you, you don't really need to run the outside on your qualifying lap. Anyways, you're really going to want to turn like when you're running a qualifying lap here. Of course, when you're going into your out lap, you may want to kind of get closer to the wall so you can get a better runoff. But you're going to dive down to the inside as soon as you turn in. You're gonna turn in at your turn in spot, and you're going to let off the gas completely, get completely out of the gas, then go up about 75% into the gas, and then work your way back up as you exit. So it really shouldn't be a problem if you've had a lot of time on the track. I just think I don't think it's a very valid excuse, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it is definitely a trade-off. You're right that if you're really dialed in there and you're running as quick as you possibly can, then you don't really have that possibility to get into the wall. But you're always going to occasionally slip up trying to go for the best apex possible, and sometimes that is easier than you think, and sometimes it's more difficult. But very quickly, again, we're going to. I'm just waiting in the background for info on when the new proper race session is up, and then we will send you over there, and we'll get all of our other pre-race hijinks done. But for the time being, let's just go over your current top 10 in qualifying, and then again, we'll go over the entire field later in the race. But currently, your top 10 in qualifying, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, Nick Nickerson back into the pole spot, starting off the grid with the top time for, one of the many times he's done so in the series, but the first time this season. On the outside pole, the outside of row 1, Mr. Ricky Hart Jr. is back, and it's so good to see him again. Unfortunately, last week, before we had this new qualifying system, one of the big issues we had was, when you get more than 43 drivers in the entry, you unfortunately have to exclude a couple, I should say, from the grid. And unfortunately, Ricky was just here a little bit too late, didn't make the field but it's so great to have him back this week. And now, he's going to be hungry for it. He's going to be fighting, and at least for the time being, he's got some points to make up. But it's a long season, and I'm sure he's not super worried about the long-term championship. But I know he'd love a win, so he'll be starting on the outside of row number 1. We'll go into it a little bit later about last year's race at this very track. But Brandon Jackson, last season's winner here at Miami in the Xfinity Series in Bandit Season 8, he will be starting as the first driver on row 2 on the inside. To his outside, Aaron Smith II, a new face in the series, making his debut tonight. And I've heard some big things about him all week, but particularly his ability at the road courses. So maybe, I know Nick was scouting him out a bit earlier this week, so definitely, getting in his head a little bit. Definitely the potential for a good battle there at the road courses this season between him and, well, a new competitor. But for now, he's also shown his ability on the ovals, so the 42 car. Welcome to the series, making his debut tonight, and he'll be starting on the outside of row number 2, so keep an eye on him. But Kevin Foster is a big name we got to mention as well. Definitely somebody that said he was going to be more accustomed to the trucks this season. Definitely more excited to make that transition was Kevin Foster. So we will see how he does today. I guess we can put the names up as we go. But yeah, so Kevin Foster was great in practice, was great all week in our practice sessions we put up throughout the week. So definitely him, he's a guy to look out for tonight. So keep him in mind, and he will be starting on the inside of row number 3. On the outside of row 3, another new name, Jason Stewart there in the 41 car. There's a pretty sweet photo they seem to have automatically loaded in. So there is Jason Stewart, seems like a fun guy, and from Florida as well. So probably not too far down the road from Homestead Miami Speedway. So you got to wonder if there's some sort of advantage there. But he's on the outside of row number 3. On the inside of row number 4, Davey Hendricks came so close to a win last week. Was, well, probably about 2.5 miles away from the win at some points in the final lap at Daytona, but unfortunately just a very chaotic event for him. A fellow Floridian is going to try to make up for it this week, and had some pretty ugly wrecks, but also had some pretty great moves. So, Davey Hendricks couldn't go back-to-back at the super speedways, but, he's got a lot to prove tonight, and one of the best in the series. He's definitely a guy that I'd watch out for again. Tony Hilbrands to his outside in the number 92 car, one of the best liveries in the field, and he definitely had a strong presence last week as well at Daytona, but I think towards the end of his race he had some unfortunate issues that took him out of it, and there was all sorts of chaos, and I believe he got taken out at some point in the race, or perhaps I'm thinking somebody else. And well, I mean, who didn't get taken out at some point in that Daytona race? To be fair, even the leaders, even at the end there, got involved in a wreck. But finally, to round off your top 10, Cale Zook there in the 44 car. That's a really good qualifying spot for him. With more and more drivers in the series than ever, those carryovers from last season, you get worried that maybe they'll drop off a little bit, but Cale Zook is just keeping up with the pressure there in the 44 car, qualifying in the top 10 and the top 25% of the field, with Carter Talley there in the 22 car, another fairly new name to the series, to his outside. And there is your top 10. Now, Mitch, looking at that top 10, and if you can see there the rest of the grid as we scroll through, were there any names on that list that particularly surprised you about where they qualified tonight?
Yeah, the 44 is Zook, man. He's a fairly new guy here in the league as far as I'm concerned. I was very surprised. The rest of the guys are kind of the usual suspects, in my opinion. But the 44 car, look out for him. He looks like he's got some skill. He's only 2/10 off. And, if he can manage his tires over the long run, he can turn that into a top 5 or better. Honestly, I think he's the guy to watch.
Absolutely, and just a few more names I see as I scroll down the list here that I'm looking at. Cody Welch here qualifying in 12th. Absolutely not a bad spot whatsoever, but I think that does kind of allude to the fact that, I think guys are being a little bit more hesitant here about, how quick they're running and qualifying and how much they're pushing the potential to get into the wall there and lose one of their laps, because Cody is definitely a guy that, I don't know about you, Mitch, but typically we would expect at most, mile and a halves or most traditional tracks that are in a super speedway, he's usually a pretty guaranteed top 10 spot there in qualifying. And again, I just mentioned that, we do have more drivers in the series. There's more competition than ever in the Bandit Racing League, but kind of a surprising name to see down there in 12th. I say down there as relative, certainly. He's still in row number 6, so look for him as well to move into the top 10 early. But after that, Benjamin Lacey right behind him on the inside of row number 7. Former race winner last season, was in the playoff 4 as well. So a few surprising names down there. And just all throughout the field, there's some guys that, maybe a really good race last week and dropped off a little bit this week. But, it's a long race. And, of course, some guys just going to prioritize making the field over, being the absolute fastest guy out there in their very first lap. It's a 100-lap race. You got plenty of time. But there, again, is your pole sitter, Mr. Nick Nickerson. I don't know why his number blends into his background there on the graphic. We'll have to figure that out for next week. But, well, he's back. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the race, you could argue the first real race after last season, with Daytona being just such a chaotic event. First time back at a track that has a ton of technical skill required, and Nick is back on the pole. I mean, Mitch, is Is there any real reason to be surprised here? Is this going to be, you think something we'll see again this season after last year?
I wouldn't be surprised, to see the same result as we're used to. But the thing is like Nick's not that far ahead, and like you were talking about Cody Welch earlier being in 12th. I'm a terrible qualifier, but I always like to think that I show up later in the race. Especially, I think I'm really good at managing tires and avoiding incidents. So if those guys have even half of what I've got, they're going to be fucking. They're going to be just going to be great. They have no problem whatsoever. So I think it's just, judging somebody by the qualifying time to me is not always going to be the full story, and you're just going to have to kind of wait around and see how it plays out. And I think a lot of these guys are going to surprise you. And as close as the top 5 are in times, I don't think you can call it, because Nick's always got a habit of running these really good qualifying times, but we'll just have to see how he manages that, and if he can keep a gap between him and the other guys in the race, because as soon as somebody else gets clean air, it's going to change the game completely.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see how he rolls with the punches in that regard. But now we got to get off to the other race sessions. So quickly, we're going to head into our first of a new segment running in this series. We felt really bad, me particularly, after some issues there technically in last week's broadcast, having some issues with his interview there and his first podium in the Bandit Racing League. Mark Alan Bivens, man, what a race he had last week at Daytona. Finished it off in style. And, just what can you even say about him? So we felt bad. We didn't give him a proper interview, and we definitely want to learn more about one of our best young drivers in the series. And, we figured it was time to start off a new segment we've been talking about for a while. So we're going to do our first driver profile of the season. Earlier this week on Monday, I sat down to talk with Mr. Mark Alan Bivens and hear about his hopes for this season, hear about his interests in his particular set of skills. So we're going to, we do the transition over, we're going to put up his interview, some information about him, in our first driver profile segment. So we will be back in just a moment, folks, but for the time being, let's listen in and see what Mark Alan Bivens had to say about his season opener and the rest of his season going forward. And for the first week of our new segment we're running here on the broadcast, these kind of driver profiles to, get to know the drivers on track here. For all the people watching at home that, may not know so much about the drivers, well, what better way than to talk to them directly? And well, for the first segment we're going to do this week at Miami, well, what better driver to talk to than Mark Alan Bivens? He got his first career podium in the Bandit Racing League last week at Daytona in clutch fashion, had to avoid some wrecks, and certainly wasn't easy. And first of all, welcome Mark Alan back to the booth here, and hopefully this time we won't have nearly as many tech slip-ups as were on my end last week. But first of all, we just got to ask, having a few days to let it sink in, getting that first career podium, what aspects of the last season, you ran full-time in the series in Bandit Season 8, coming back, running the trucks in your very first race, what takeaways do you think you had from your first season, and how much do you think those helped you at Daytona and for the rest of your season going forward?
Well, I mean, the trucks and Xfinity cars, they're super different, but I feel like I was just able to learn how to drive with the rest of the drivers, and I was able to know each other's styles of driving. Mm-hmm. So that's really helped me going into the first race here. So I know who's aggressive, who's patient, and I know how to maneuver around people.
And it seemed to come in handy there, when there was so much chaos there in that first race. You seemed to kind of deke and dodge your way through, and you were one of the constants up there throughout the entire race. And I think it really speaks to your ability at super speedways. And, speaking of your abilities, and now that you presumably have some great confidence there after, starting the season off, you're third in the points in your very first race. What a way to start the year. Now, for the rest of the season, you got 23 more races you got to rattle off. It's a long year. But over the course of that season, by the time we're done this season of the Bandit Racing League, is there anything you hope to have accomplished? Is there any sort of goals you're setting for yourself? Any sort of top fives you want to achieve, a certain number? Want to get a proper win in this series, or you want to make the playoffs? Like what's kind of your guide marker for your performance this season?
Well, I really just want to be able to hopefully keep my position or be moving up in position in points. But the main thing that I really want to do this season is get my first ever win.
And, in terms of your abilities, in terms of your experience, especially as you say on the trucks, is there a certain, location, certain type of racing this season that you think you'll be particularly capable at, that you think you could get that first win at throughout the rest of the season?
Well, like I said, my favorite super speedway, my favorite type of racing is super speedways. So I feel like I'm going to be really good at super speedways, but I really think I'm going to get my first win at Atlanta.
Oh man, that would be pretty sweet. Atlanta's one of those tracks that's it definitely takes a top driver, somebody who's really capable of conserving tires and really focusing on the long run. So to win at Atlanta this season would just it would put you in the upper echelon there. It would definitely make a statement. But I think you already did that in your first race, and you're definitely going to be somebody to watch out for. But to end off the interview here, I just want to ask, for the rest of the season, for the rest of the Bandit Racing League, how do you think of yourself as a driver? And just tell the people at home, what sort of driver is Mark Alan Bivens? What sort of skills do you bring to the series? What sort of person do you think you are on and off track? Just how would you quantify yourself to the people who have maybe never watched you until last week?
Well, I feel like I can be aggressive, I can be patient, and I feel like I know how to work the car. But I also feel like I just need to keep on getting better and better. But I feel like I'm also getting better and better as the season goes.
Awesome. Was one of the youngest drivers in the series. You definitely got that time, and to show that again such potential last week in a race that again was not easy, was one of the most clutch performances we've seen in a long time in the series. Well, you got so many years left to catch up to some of these older guys who are top of the series, and I'm sure by the time you get there, you're going to be one of the premier talents, if not the premier talent in the series. And I can't wait to watch you get there. So for the first time at the the new segment we're running this season here in the driver profiles, we're going to head off the air to get back to the racing action here at Miami, but it's been a pleasure to talk to you, Mark Allen. I hope things are going well at this point in the broadcast in the future at Miami. But I'm sure if you can repeat your performance from last week, use those same skills, I'm sure you'll be doing great. So again, thank you, Mark Allen, for taking the time to talk to us. And again, hopefully the people at home have gotten a little bit more insight into the kind of driver you are and what sort of season you can expect from the 76 truck. Thank you, Mark, and yeah, have a great rest of your race, man.
All right, you too.
And there you go, our first driver profile of the season. It was great to, again, talk and sit down with Mr. Mark Alan Bivens. And, one of the youngest drivers in the series, but I think definitely one of the ones with, well, undoubtedly the most potential. I can't wait to see what he does this season. And I know Mitch is particularly excited because he's a fellow, what was the word you used, Mitch? Arkansian? What was it?
Arkansan, yes. Mark Allen is from Arkansas, and I had no idea until this week. I grew up in Paragould, which is, not too far away from where he lives in Blytheville. So it's so cool to know that now. Like, this is what's great about our driver profiles, is we learn something new. Even I learned too.
Yeah, I can't wait to see who we get in the booth this season, in the profile this season. And well, I guess it's technically in the booth because it is a pre-recorded interview. But yeah, it'll be nice to talk to some new guys and get some new faces in there throughout the year, and that's kind of what it's going to be a good opportunity for, is to to hear from those guys that maybe we aren't going to hear from super early in the season in the broadcast booth, just because it's hard to expect guys to immediately jump up to the top tier in such a competitive series as the Bandit Racing League. So it'll be good to kind of get to know them, put a face to a truck early in the season, and then well, from there we move on and hopefully get them in the proper broadcast booth again sometime in the near future. So this is the proper session. We have a brief pre-race warm-up session, and then we'll be into the proper racing. So I promise you we will not be here for 2 hours, as the ticker suggests. Don't worry, we will be through it much quicker than that. But this is just another session. I mean, maybe kind of interesting to see who stays in the top 5 here in terms of lap times. You see a wreck there in the background. Somebody's having trouble. But well, this might be a chance to actually see some of the trucks that are going to be leading the field. So again, just to remind you, the top 3 in tonight's race. We got Mr. Nick Nickerson here driving a new truck, making a debut, and well, his still his big red propane truck, but he's got some pretty fancy colors going on there. Some Technicolor situation here. It's a very fitting truck under the Miami lights. It's first of all, Miami, our first night race of the season, one of the best looking tracks on the service, but under the lights it's even better. So there you go, possibly tonight's winning truck, and certainly one of the best looking. So there is Nick Nickerson. After that, remember on the outside of row 1, I don't believe he's currently on track, so we can't show him, but Ricky Hart, again, finally able to return to the series. He'll be starting on the outside there. And now I am genuinely forgetting who is starting on the... oh, that was Brandon Jackson there starting in the 3rd spot. He is also not on track, so we won't get a chance to talk to him. But there is your pole sitter, and we will finish up this, this practice session momentarily. But before we get into the proper race, let's go to our track preview. Here we go. So let's talk about it for a little bit here. Homestead, a much newer track than last week's Daytona International Speedway. Homestead Miami was opened in 1995, so been open for just over 25 years. So a very longly tenured track here in NASCAR, but every season it's been here, they've run it in some manner of NASCAR series. And again, formerly the finale for the real-life NASCAR Top 3 Series seasons. It is considered a speedway, so our first non-super speedway of the season. It is 1.5 miles in length, and we're running 100 laps tonight in the Moo Makes 100, so 150 miles in total. A much lower bank track than last week, but 18 to 20 degrees is still decent enough that it could be considered a semi-bank track. But again, it's going to really burn up the tires because unlike at Daytona, you definitely got to be lifting and coasting, and it's much more technical from a driver's perspective. So not quite as welcoming of a banking for sure. So it'll be interesting again to see how guys work with the first tire race of the season. But after that, Brandon Jackson was last year's winner at this very track, and it was a nail-biter finish as well. Had to battle Nick Nickerson and Cody Welch to the finish. Some real titans of the series there coming to the line in that race. And again, if you want to go see any of those races, the Evan Wall Media's YouTube channel is linked in the description. And I mean, if you come here from last season, you know where to find him, so look up Evan Wall Media, and all the races should be on his channel. I don't remember if I made a playlist for it in this channel, so feel free to check and see if you can find last season's races. I think now that I mention it, I did, so feel free to go and look out for that if you want to go see that old finish. But after that, the quickest time on iRacing is a 30.045 second lap, but that's 3 full seconds quicker than us tonight in qualifying, so I'm going to assume that is probably with an older truck model, because I don't,
that or an open setup for sure.
Yeah, it's very hard to make up 3 full seconds here at a 30-second oval, so I'm going to say that is not going to be relevant to our drivers tonight, not exactly a goal to shoot for. But the next week, we're going into the Daytona road course. We're staying in Florida, we're going back to Daytona, and we're going to get our first road course of the season. We'll get to see Aaron Smith, who starts on the outside of row number 2, who's, again, apparently a pretty big deal on the road course side of things. We'll get to see if he lives up to all that hype he's got around him, and we'll get our first chance to go to my domain. I love those, right-hand turns, and it's something that I've always been particularly capable at comparatively to tracks like these that are very much about tire wear, which has not historically been my exact forte. It wouldn't be what I would brag about myself about to any other driver. So
for sure, it's a different discipline. They're called the same sport, but like driving an oval and driving a road course, they are nothing alike. The only thing that you have in common is you're holding the steering wheel and you got a couple of pedals. That's about it.
Right. Yes, man, it's it's going to be very different. Like I think at the beginning of our season, we'll actually show our season schedule as a whole now. But I mean, in terms of first 3 races of a season, Mitch, does it get much more different than that?
I don't think it gets much different from going to a road course from Homestead. Like that's a big jump off point. The good news is the Daytona International Speedway, and we're going to have a lot of familiarity with that. We ran it last season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
It's a very tough course, but at the same time, there's worse. You don't have a lot of elevation changes, which makes it a little less difficult, in my opinion. But at the same time, having to run on the tri-oval makes it very, very difficult to kind of get down into your braking zones where you're coming off the front stretch into turn 1.
Yeah, for sure. It is a very it's not a very high-speed track for the most part as far as road courses go, aside from using a significant portion of the oval from the entry to turn 1 all the way around to the start-finish line, including the famous bus stop chicane there on the backstretch. But technically, it is, as you say, very, very little vertical ascension or descension, so you really don't have to worry about losing the back end that way, like guys kind of had to at Road America when there was a lot more, ups and downs to the circuit than at Daytona. So it'll be an interesting track, but we'll talk way more about that when we get there. But there is your season schedule again. That is, it's I think one of the best schedules this series has ever had. Certainly, I think a little bit more variety, I think, than the last season. I mean, just talk about going to Knoxville, going to Eldora, getting to see some dirt racing.
Yes,
that'll be great. I know, Mitch, you're particularly more of a dirt fan than I am.
Yes, I've always been a huge dirt fan. That's where I grew up going to. Knoxville is one of the greatest tracks in history, as well as Eldora. I don't think you could have picked 2 more different, but 2 better dirt tracks to feature in this series for this year. So I'm looking forward to it.
As am I. Well, I am in the process of trying to find out where our qualifying results are, and we are not going to get them. So no official qualifying results tonight, unfortunately. But again, there is your starting grid. We'll just we'll shoot through it. Hopefully, Mitch, you have a way to see the grid, even if we only have to go off the timing tower. But again, to go over your top 10, we got Mr. Nick Nickerson on the pole, Ricky Hart Jr. to his outside in the front row, Brandon Jackson on row number 2, Aaron Smith to his outside in the 4th spot, making his debut tonight. Kevin Foster after that in 5th, Jason Stewart starting in 6th, Davey Hendricks starting in the 7th spot, Tony Hilbrands on the outside of row number 4 and 8th, Kale Zook, again a great qualifying performance for him, he'll start 9th, and Carter Talley rounds off your top 10.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to take this one for me because I'm not able to get this brought up at the time. So if you want to go ahead and continue, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no worries. In 11th, we got Curtis McAllis, I should say, fellow Canadian like myself. He'll start on the inside of row number 6. After that, we got Cody Welch starting to his outside in 12th. We got Benjamin Lacey in 13th, Robert Mathis in 14th, Peter Murphy in 15th, Brett Guzik in 16th, Jason Greenwell in 17th, Benny Hogan in 18th, Matt Crockett in 19th. Mr. Thomas Fenswer there, who we kept showing as Tre Ellis last week, but he'll be starting on the end of the top 20. Nolan Gross after that in 21st. We were going to get a chance to interview him, but unfortunately we moved along a little bit too quick, so we're not going to hear from him, but I'm sure we'll talk to him later tonight or later this season. But Connor Zook will start in 22nd, Victor Weaver in 23rd, Tre Ellis in 24th, David Leakey in 25th, Eddie Hagee in 26th, Jonathan Platt in 27th, almost won last week with a great move at Daytona. He will start in 20... Well, they're a little bit mixed around here. We're starting to lose our spots a little bit. But he started 25th. Christopher Farrar, 26th. Alan Castle, 27th. Guys got mixed around a little bit. But Curtis Yancey, Garrett Hall, Alex Bowser, and we're all mixed around now. So you'll see the end of the grid. Green. We are indeed. Sorry, we got to head back to that. We are just going green as we speak. So a little bit of chaos, but we get through it. And there is your start. Nick Nickerson leads the field to green here at Homestead Miami for the Moo Makes 100 with Brandon Jackson immediately to his inside through 1 and 2.
Yeah, as you can see, Brandon Jackson's off to a rocket of a start. I mean, he's gapped the 2-car by like 3 car lengths already.
He has indeed. What a start for the guy that we call Action Jackson. I always have to mention it at some point. Might as well get it out of the way early. So Brandon Jackson, a great start for him. A little ways back. Ricky Hart falling back a little bit. Now he's side by side with Kevin Foster, running a very similar livery in that nice, orange and pink livery, the same one Nickerson's running. So he's putting it to good use already, up 1 spot from 5th to 4th. At his outside, Jason Stewart again making his debut there in the 41 car. He's already up past Aaron Smith, who's dropped back a couple spots. Aaron Smith making his debut tonight in the number 42 truck. You see there that yellow truck, or the white and yellow up on the top side, with Davey Hendricks right behind him. Tony Hilbrand's now going to the bottom, and really the trade-off, Mitch, this early in the race is, how much do you want to burn the tires up for the end of the run, but also taking track position early in this race?
Yeah, it looks like Brandon's taking the approach of, I'm going to put as much of a gap on these guys as I can first, early in the race. And it seems to be working out so far. I mean, he's really running off and leave. If you watch his exit, he's getting such a much better exit. But as you mentioned, at what expense for his tires?
Yeah, exactly. That's really the trade-off is, at the beginning here, you can really try to break away, make sure that you're on your own, as we see he's doing. He's about two car lengths clear of both guys behind him. So, for the time being, might be for his best interest to just kind of break away. But at a certain point later in this run, if we go green for a while, which maybe he's not banking on, but it'll make him considerably at a disadvantage compared to the trucks behind him. But again, the guy that you got to look for is Ricky Hart, returning to the series after he wasn't able to run at Daytona. He's still side by side with Nick Nickerson, the 2 and the 64, the last 2 champions in the series. Now the 2 car takes the 2 spot. Nickerson back up to 2nd, with Foster looking to the bottom of Hart.
Yeah, it looks like the 2 car has found something, running kind of a mixture of the high line and the middle line here. It seems like he's found a seam that really just kind of works for him here. As you mentioned, the 64 of Ricky Hart was up next to him, but it seems kind of like Nick is in the 2 is really catching the 99 right now and making that high line work.
He is, and I think long-term that is what the drivers all week have been assuming is going to be the better line. The top line is going to burn up tires slower because you're getting to use more of the banking. The track is trying to push you down towards the bottom rather than like Brandon's doing, letting the tires do all the work. So, you just got to worry over the course of this longer stint. Maybe Brandon isn't going to have what it takes to keep the tires on it. But for now, he has led 6 laps early in the event, and there goes Nick up to the top side by side for the lead, keeping it off the wall. If he can get the run and he can make sure Brandon doesn't clear him, might have the spot down to turn number 3.
Yeah, right. As I mentioned earlier in the pre-race, that when you're riding the top line, You're using the throttle to turn the car more than you are when you're in the bottom lane. In the bottom lane, you've really got to wait on the car a lot longer, and you get back into the throttle up against the wall so much faster, and you're able to carry more speed, as we're seeing right now as the 2 car is going by the 99.
He is indeed finally getting that momentum all worked up, and finally has the pace that he needs to get by on the outside. So there it goes, Nick Nickerson. But Brandon going to try it one more time. Almost cleared him there if he can slide up. Try to pull the slide job. He does almost. Oh, it was close. He backs out of it. Yeah, Nick just had a huge head of steam, and I think Brandon was a little bit worried that he was going to slide up in front of him and maybe wreck this early in the race, which is the last thing you want if you're either of these gentlemen. You got to think definitely competing for the title this season. So yeah, that's the last thing you want here early in the race is a caution, but they're still going side by side. Again, Brandon trying to slide up and get in front of him, but unsuccessful as of yet.
Yeah, I just want to mention right now, we got some word from pit lane that the 10 of Matt Crocker has pitted. Not sure why right now, but he has definitely entered the pits.
Yeah, he has indeed. I'm not seeing a particular incident from him, so really not sure. Not sure what the situation is there for him, but I'm sure we'll figure it out a little bit more as we go on. Back up again, still this battle for the lead. We're still side by side, so we should go around the field and get a bit of an update on the other drivers. Ricky Hart Jr. here we're seeing started in well, that's the wrong driver. Ricky Hart Jr. started on the outside of the front row, has dropped down to 8th, so early in the race, finally able to get into the event, but perhaps not the start that Ricky would have been hoping for. But again, as long as you're in the top 10 early in the race, and if you're saving tires, which I think the 64, based on the line we're seeing, I think there's a good chance he is. Might not be in such a bad spot, but it's interesting to see. You got to wonder if, again, maybe just Ricky often would find himself kind of pushed back in the pack a little bit and would have trouble getting all the way back through, just because if you stay up front like the Nickersons, like the Jacksons, all you got to worry about is yourself. You got clean air in front of you. Now that Jackson's moved up to the top line, Nickerson to the bottom. But I mean, Mitch, from your perspective, do you think it's a bit of a risk for Hart to drop back that far and just risk getting swallowed up by the rest of the pack?
Well, I'm not sure if it was totally a choice. He was kind of going pretty hard side by side with the 2 for a few laps, which I'm sure the 99 like to see. But now they're battling it out. And when you have to stick to that low line like he was doing, you're going to use up your tires a little faster. But what I want to mention is the 8 of Kevin Foster, and also the 41 of Jason Stewart. They're coming up through the field, and these guys are racing side by side. This has got to look good to you when you're in 3rd and 4th place. To see the leaders fighting each other and using up their stuff, trying to get around one another.
Absolutely. The longer these two battle, the better chance Kevin Foster has to sneak in there, and with better tires. And we do indeed. First caution of the race. We're seeing all sorts of positions being swapped around. Who was that? I'm seeing Hunter Henry was Carter Talley was the driver involved in that wreck. Let's go live to see his situation. Has already dropped back to 42nd. Whoa, the 22 truck of Carter Talley. Pace truck drives straight through him, but something has clearly gone wrong for him. So let's get our first replay of the night. Oh, he's still having trouble keeping the wheels under the car, so let's go see what happened to him. Just kind of gets clipped by the 07 car. I don't know about you, Mitch, but that looks like some strong netcode to me.
For sure, there was at least a 6-inch to a foot gap between them, and something about the net code made an air cushion there and pushed him around. So I don't really blame anybody for that wreck, but it was definitely an issue with connection. Yeah, as you see there, yeah, at this type of track, you wouldn't have enough of an air air difference when it comes to the pocket of air that's formed around the car to cause that problem. So that was definitely a netcode issue.
And it does suck because Curtis Michaelis, remember, qualified just outside the top 10. Like, he was off to a great start, and unfortunately getting caught in that. I think he is still on track. Doesn't look like he's taken any considerable damage, if any, but it's going to hurt his chances. No, he has. Look at the smoke coming off the back of that truck. So we'll get one more replay from his perspective, maybe. And yeah, it didn't look like he slid down into him. Like, it didn't look like Curtis ran him out of room. It was just really, yeah. I mean, already a little bit of damage to the 22 there of Talley. So you got to wonder if maybe there was more contact beforehand.
Well, as far as pit stops go, the 99 and the 32 have made their way into the pits. So it looks like they're going to at least take fuel, if not tires. I'm not sure how many tire sets we've got here, but I would imagine that you want to be really careful about that because you're only going to get about 30 laps on a fuel run. And by the end of that lap, or that 30-mile fuel run, in my experience, your tires were around about 65 to 62%. So on your right front, the rest of your tires are going to be good, but you're going to use that right front so much at this track that you're going to want to at least take right sides. And we may see that later in the race.
Yeah, interesting to see. Maybe that's the case for a lot of these drivers coming in early. We saw Brandon Jackson there, who was battling for the lead. I didn't notice there under under yellow whether he managed to maintain the position on the two-car of Nickerson, or the two-truck of Nickerson, I should say. I wasn't sure who was ahead at the drop of the yellow, so regardless, he is going to pit for the first time tonight, be your first driver out of the pit lane, and he is now dropped to 15th, but again, relatively far up the field for a 43-car field. You'll notice there in the timing tower it has 46 slots, but we do not have 46 drivers, so it's just a bit of confusion left over on the graphics from last session. But there is Brandon Jackson. A few other drivers. Davey Hendricks just pitted a moment ago there in the 21 truck. Cody Welch as well as pitted back in the 85. So, you know, a few guys mixed together in the field, but I feel like we've seen before, Mitch. I know this was typically last season when you hadn't joined the broadcast team yet, but we did often see guys that on alternate strategies decided to opt towards the middle of the field, tried to run for conservation rather than running up front, would often find themselves getting stuck in some sort of wreck and some sort of altercation that took them out of the race. And it happened to Brandon the last year. So, you know, from your perspective, is there anything to be said in the alternate strategies of either you run up front, you maybe don't conserve quite as well, but you stay out of trouble, versus you try to go for that risk on tires and fuel and try to save for longer periods, but you risk being stuck in wrecks in the middle of the pack? What from your perspective is the better plan?
Yeah, you know, I think you're kind of in a no-win or only-win situation as far as either strategy goes. I mean, you can either take your chances, you know, coming in, get in the middle of the pack, you know, try to avoid the wrecks if there are any. You just really kind of have to know the track and how the racing kind of is going to go over the long term. You know, at this track, people are going to get spread out, so you've got less of a chance to get caught up in the big one as you might at a Daytona or a Talladega. But at the same time, how much track position are you giving up, and how much harder are you going to have to work your tires, especially that front right tire, to get around people? Because when you go around people, you're going to have to stick it low most of the time. You're not going to be able to pass them on the outside until later in the run. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, and you just kind of, you know, in my opinion, you got to fly by the seat of your pants and just try to do the best you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really all you can ask. And again, I use the term of phrase a lot, but, you know, rolling with the punches is really what you got to do here, especially at a race like at Homestead Miami, where there's so many different factors. We saw last season a late race yellow that just threw things into chaos. So it's taking what the race, you know, gives to you and working with it as best you can. So the front row now made up of two fellow, again, no official teams in the Bandit Racing League, but two drivers that are definitely affiliated and are running, you know, basically the same paint scheme, just alternate colors, and it's a great paint scheme for sure. The two-car of Nickerson with the 8 truck of Kevin Foster to his outside. Behind them, Jason Stewart and Aaron Smith, the two first-time rookies in the 41 and 42 respectively, making up that second row. Then Jason Greenwell and Cale Zook, again, great qualifying spot for Zook, but Greenwell has moved up 12 spots since the start of the race. So there's plenty of pace here up front, but, you know, a few new names. It's going to be very fascinating to see who succeeds here off this restart.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the 44 of Zook, he's one to watch. You know, he's a newcomer to the field, and he's already making a name for himself by qualifying the top 10 in this field. You know, that's a great thing in itself. So here we go to green.
Here we go indeed. Past the green flag, Nick Nickerson comfortably ahead as we head down to turn number 1. Finally got to catch a green flag this season. Look, we've had trouble getting through the starting grid here on the restarts this season, but we'll fix it as we go forward. But now, 41 truck of Jason Stewart. What a start there as we come off of turn number 2. Again, he's on the inside line. He's got to get up if he's wanting to take that spot overall, but he does. Slides up in front of Foster. What a start. The 42 truck of Smith is going with him.
Yeah, Aaron Smith looks like he is putting on a show down here on the low line. I knew he was going to be a strong truck, but I wasn't totally convinced he was going to be this strong early, and he's muscled his way up into third already, running right behind the leaders as the 8 comes back to him.
Nick Nickerson now to the outside of the 41 truck. The outside's still more ideal, I think, with this stage of the tires, especially drivers that haven't pitted yet. So he'll get the run off of turn number 2, but the 41 truck, it is looking quick. Doesn't have too much detail, doesn't have any sponsors on it, but man, it is quick. And right behind Aaron Smith, still to the top side, and Kevin Foster, he's broken up the two teammates. Now there's one on the high line and one on the low line, and Jason Stewart again with a big send into turn number 3 and 4.
Yeah, nothing says your name here like a good win and a good showing in the Bandit Racing League. So the 41 truck, good for him, you know. But I'm wondering how long he's going to be able to make that bottom line stick, because as we talked about before, you know, it's like sandpaper down on the bottom on your tires, and he's going to run out of grip faster than the 2 is going to. So we'll see how they change up later. But in the later runs, in the last run, the 2 was able to make the bottom work, you know, in the late stages when the 99 was running the top line. So we'll see. You know, it's going to be a crapshoot for sure.
It will indeed. We'll keep an eye on that battle for the lead. But for the time being, Brandon Jackson up 7 spots since that last restart. So making good progress on his end. Davey Hendricks as well, trying to get back through the field after pitting early in the race. He's got Alex Bowser, who had a great race at Daytona, right behind him in that blue and yellow entry to his inside. Right ahead of him is, I believe, the 55 car of Connor Zoom. Somebody saw in the background there getting a little bit loose. No caution as we can see, but there's definitely smoke there in the background. Did you catch something there, Mitch?
The two got really close to the 41's rear bumper, and when he took him low, he was able to cross him over, and it was close enough to where I thought they were going to make contact, but it looks like the two was able to keep off of him, and now the 41's making another run at the bottom now, and he's taking the lead again.
You know, this is what I like to see. Not only the 41 truck proving he's quick in one of his first, I believe his first race period in the Bandit Racing League, but he's doing so in an aggressive way. Now he clears the 2 car completely, and Jason Stewart, welcome to the series. Nick's going to go for another chance and another attempt on him. And again, the question becomes, how much do you want to burn that rubber up this early in the run before the end? And, you know, he does comfortably take the spot back. So Nick Nickerson back to the point as we begin lap number 21. But what a battle we're seeing.
Yeah, you know, as far as coming out parties, you can't ask for much better than Jason Stewart in the 41. I mean, he's really taking it to the series champion here. I mean, even if it's only for a few laps, it's pretty dang impressive in my opinion. He's going to slide job right up in front of him as Nick's going to go down low again.
Now going to Curtis Yancey, who's up 27 spots since the beginning of the race, qualified 32nd, currently sitting in 5th. He's got a great view of this battle ahead. Now back to the point is Nick Nickerson once again, but again, Jason Stewart here on the top line as you see the 2 cars slide up in front of him. He's going to go to the inside. I think if he can get down to the inside once again, crossing the line, the Floridian is, well, making again a name for himself here in his first race of the season. I believe his first race overall, and just, wow, if we not only, you know, have all the guys returning from last year, some really quick names that are perhaps in the trucks, which they're more comfortable in than the Xfinity cars, but we also got these quick new rookies. What a year we're going to have in this series.
For sure. You know, you mentioned the 51 of Curtis Yancey, one of my favorite drivers. So happy to see him up here in the top 5. You know, he's got an impressive trophy collection. He showed me some of that stuff this week, and I just want to say, like, you know, he's looking to add to it. And so it'll be nice to see what he's able to pull off here later in the races. As the 41 goes by the 2 again, they just keep trading spots.
Back and forth and back and forth. It just does not end with these 2 guys. And behind them, we shouldn't discount the battle either between Foster and Smith. That's Aaron Smith the second there in the 42 truck making his debut. He and Kevin Foster have been going back and forth, but Kevin typically a little bit further ahead in that particular battle. So we just got to get an opportunity to go back a little bit in the field, talk about some, you know, new names while we just wait for this battle up front to heat up once again. Here is Victor Weaver up 12 spots from the start there in qualifying. He qualified in the 23rd spot, matching his truck number, and he's already up to the 11th spot, battling to the inside of Cody Welch, now to the inside of Benjamin Lacey, the 2 Championship 4 contenders, and Welch and Lacey battling on that outside, trying to get by him there. But the 23 truck in the Monster Energy livery, one of the best looking trucks, I think, in the entire series, and Victor Weaver, perhaps one of the more underrated drivers in the series, but definitely a guy that's had his fair share of top 10s, and battling with it's not only a series veteran, but a series superstar in Benjamin Lacey.
Yeah, Benjamin Lacey's got a very storied career here in the Bandit Racing League as far as it's concerned, and I think that he's going to be another one that you want to watch later in the race. He's got a lot of patience, and he's a really talented driver, and, you know, he's one of those guys that's just going to be able to, like, you know, just log the laps, and if he can manage his tires, you know, he can really be a factor coming into the race.
Yeah, we've always thought of him, at least Evan and I last season, we always thought of him as one of the most consistent drivers in the series when it comes to just conserving and just always being there. Didn't really make mistakes. I can honestly not recall a single wreck he got in last season, to be honest. I feel like he just had one of the most consistent years where he was never really involved in stuff, and perhaps tonight that's going to be the skill set you're looking for, so keep an eye on him later in this event. But right now, Brandon Jackson in the 99 truck trying to chase down Curtis Yancey for the end of the top 5, and Curtis is, in the past, he's proven that on the short runs he's one of the quickest in the series. Not many guys can compete with him there, but over the longer runs, that's where he has a bit of a tendency to burn up his stuff more comparatively to other drivers, whereas Brandon, not one of the best in the series, particularly at conservation, but definitely one of the fastest and has the potential for the flashiest moves. So we'll see, depending on if this momentum, Yancey going backwards, Jackson going forwards, we'll see if it continues. But we know these guys had a bit of a history. If you watched last season, I think they, for the most part, got it sorted out. But it'll be good to see that battle rekindled here tonight, only 27 laps into the race.
Yeah, definitely no love lost between these two, that's for sure. But Curtis looks like he's, you know, going to be able to maintain. And he came from pretty far back, as you mentioned earlier. So I would look for him just to capitalize on the improvements he's made so far. If he goes in and is able to get some tires and get a new set of fuel and reset on a caution, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And these guys need to look out because when you come from that far back, there's something to be said about that. And I think he's driving with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder this week after some current events that happened.
Right behind them, though, another guy, again, he had a great qualifying performance, and now he's right behind this battle between two series superstars. Cale Zook, what a night for the 44 truck. He is right behind there. You can see here in the cockpit of his number 44 entry, I should say. But right behind there, now watching them go side by side between Yancey and Jackson up ahead. To the inside goes Jackson. He's going to get the slide job done, but the question is how much momentum does Yancey have off of turn number 4? Can he go for the move again coming down to turn number 1?
Yeah, it looks like he's looking low again, but I think, when Jackson came in earlier, I'm not sure if he took tires or not. I don't know if we have a way to report on that. But from being able to come from 15th all the way up to now being in the 5th spot, that's something to be said for that at a place like Homestead. So if he didn't take tires, he's got way more talent than I gave him credit for, and I always thought he was pretty talented to begin with. So we'll see.
Here comes the 44 truck. Big block there by Curtis Yancey down to the bottom, trying to hold on to 6th as long as he can, but Cale Zook, just the momentum he seems to have right now, he's to the top line, so Yancey should hold the line through the corner, but the question is on the straightaway, the 44 is just going to have a head of steam, and got to wonder if he's getting ready to make that move. Just hearing from our pit reporter extraordinaire, our information guru, Mr. Evan Wall Media here, again, former broadcaster of the series. We may hear from him in person, hear his very own voice later in the race, but right now just getting fed information that the 2 truck and many others running out of fuel. It's about a 30-lap fuel stint here at Homestead. Of course, we had the couple of caution laps there earlier and the only caution of the night, so that'll save a little bit of fuel, but got to think some of these lead trucks have to be coming in a moment. And right now, the 2 truck back in front. You see the 41 truck not too far behind, right where he's been all night, so he's back to the lead, but Nick is going to have to come down pit road momentarily.
Yeah, they need to come in now because if you're at 30 laps, even under caution, you're kind of pushing the limit. I know running full throttle green flag with open track, no laps, I was able to get 30 laps out of it. So when you're drafting, you might be able to save a bit, but these guys have been fighting each other back and forth the whole way. So there's no way they've saved an ounce of fuel outside of those caution laps. So I would look for them in the next 2 to 3 laps.
Still, as you saw there the last time, not coming down pit road, and I'm really surprised. I think it does kind of give us the idea, though, Mitch, that, well, if you do the basic mental math there, so let's factor in 1 caution to this whole thing, but if they can go 2 more laps, this race goes from a 3-stop race to a comfortable 2-stop. You split it into 3 sections of 33, and then you're close there at the end, but gotta wonder, maybe that's the plan. Maybe they're doing whatever they can to skip that pit stop, and now he's getting, he's getting low there on the apron, the 2 truck and the 41 coming down pit road this time.
Yeah, the 8 and the 42 seem to stay out as well as did most of the field. So we'll see if the undercut works here. A lot of times, that's going to make a big difference because when you go back out on fresh tires, and at this point, I would imagine you would take fresh tires. Oh, we got a caution.
We do indeed. Really interesting timing. That is, well, I think it's going to factor in perfectly for Nickerson and that's Stewart, who just came down pit road, as well as a couple other drivers who appear to have pitted that last time by. But perfect timing for them. That way they stay on the lead lap and get that free pit position. So we will have to go see what brought out our second caution of the race. Let me just refresh here, go to the bottom. And it is looking like Alex Bowser went back to pit road. We got a yellow flag a little ways before that. So, okay, let's try to jump back to the position of the yellow flag. There is Nick Nickerson, who is not involved.
It's actually Kevin Foster, it looks like.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Very, again, those similar liveries, they're going to throw me off all night. But there we go. There's the record we're looking for. Seen Gary Wright and Garrett Hall are the 2 drivers who were involved in that. Let's just see. No, this was coming up to, whoa, there's the 6 truck of Gary Wright. Gets into the 26 of Garrett Hall, trying to whoa it up there. That was already under caution.
It looks like the 6 of Gary Wright really kind of took a little bit too much of a liberty there when he could have slowed down. He was coming up on a slower pack. Those guys were slowing down, it looks like. It's for some reason, and he just kind of drove through whoever the back marker was there, yeah. Yeah, it looks like he just kind of lost control, drove down off the nose, and ended up in the wall. The 26 kind of got caught up in that as well.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. That's kind of the last thing you want to see here is Guys getting in stuff like that, just because, you know, if you're going to get in a wreck as a driver, ideally I think you're more okay walking away from one if it's, you know, racing involved, you're going for a position or something like that. So little wrecks like that are always the least ideal. So I'm not sure. I've looked at my telemetry. I have no suggestions as to what that could be for. So we'll wait for maybe Evan has more information for us that we aren't aware of, and then we'll keep you updated. But for now, all the leaders who did not pit that last lap are just coming down pit road as we speak. So Kevin Foster, the first of which, followed, I'd imagine, by Aaron Smith, who actually is way back in the back considerably. So I don't know if he just came down on the next pit lap, but he was right behind Kevin coming to the yellow. So not sure what his situation is there. But this will, again, it'll play perfectly into the hands of those drivers that pitted just the lap before, right before the caution came out. So Nick is going to be one of the head of that group. But he is pulled to the apron, letting trucks by. I don't know what's happening, but got to wonder, maybe an EOL penalty, maybe a speeding or something like that. But whatever's happening, currently, Brett Guzik would be your race leader.
Yeah, Evan informed me that someone has hit the barrels at pit entry. I'm not sure exactly when that happened, but the 2 car is going back into the pit, so I'm not sure what for. But still, I don't think it's that much of a problem for the 2. I think any kind of mistake that was made early in the race can easily be made up by a guy with that much skill. So I guess we'll see.
Just looking at my telemetry, I can't see particularly who would have hit the wall. Typically, if you just make contact with the wall and you don't spin out, you don't hit another truck. Typically, my telemetry doesn't update me on it, so I'm not sure. Again, maybe Evan, if you can let me know what truck, if you had to guess, was involved in that incident there with the pit barrels. But you know, probably the only thing in quite a while that I haven't seen a driver hit is the barrels that block off the blunt wall at the end of pit road. So that would be something a little different. So hopefully we can find that before we go back to green. But for now, we're actually making a lot of progress. Again, I mentioned pre-race here to Mitch, but you know, if we just go green all the way through, not a very long event tonight, 100 laps here, and the Moo makes 100 here at Homestead Miami, where the laps are about 33 seconds in length. So on average, about a 55-minute race, plus cautions, plus pit stops. So shouldn't be too long of an event tonight. We're getting there towards halfway, but the 3 and the 13 truck sitting there right in front of Brett Guzik, your current race leader, which I believe is on, well, it must be on pit cycle strategy, because meaning he probably pitted for fuel there in the early caution and then didn't need to take it this time. So 13 truck of Christopher Ferrara, that is, right ahead of him, and the 3 of Connor Sawyer should both get their lap back, and then we'll be all set, doubled up, and ready to go for the next green flag, the 3rd green flag of the race, the 2nd caution restart.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a couple of new contenders here with Brett Guzik and Robert Mathis, you know, running up here in the front row. Right behind them is going to be Kevin Foster and Brandon Jackson. They're both, I know Jackson at least has pitted once already, so he and the 44 of Cale Zook, they're going to be looking to make their way through, but we'll see how that works out as far as tire strategy goes.
Now, I'm going to throw it to you, Mitch, because we didn't get a chance to do it pre-race just with all the chaos here in our pre-show. But, well, we did it last week at Talladega. Didn't go perfectly. We jinxed guys a little bit. But do you just want to give us your prediction for the night based on what you've seen so far?
You know, I'd be hard-pressed to count out Jason Stewart. I mean, there's no disrespect to anybody else in the league, but that guy's really shown up tonight. So I'm going with the 41.
I think that's a good pick, and I think that's fun. I think after last week, Tre Ellis getting his first win in the series, it would kind of go with the flow of things. You see there, Tre Ellis right on the inside here, our winner at Daytona, but to his outside, the 41 truck is a great pick. I think it's he's got a very good chance. You know what? I'm going to go with Brandon Jackson just to be a little different as we go green here for the 3rd time in tonight's event at the Moo Makes 100 at Homestead Miami Speedway. Robert Mathis in the 29 truck, a great jump from the outside. He leads as we cross for the green flag, but Brett Guzik on the inside now starting to get his momentum back. But there is my pick. We're going to go 3 wide in the row behind. Brandon Jackson up the middle, gets by both, and now he's going to try to track down Brett Guzik. They call him Action Jackson for a reason, and that is why he is my pick. I think he's got that fire, I think he's got the aggression, and I think he can make some noise tonight.
Yeah, on the same note, my pick of the 41, he dropped back. I think he got a really bad restart. Maybe he spun the tires, but he's dropped down really far at the start of this race.
Yeah, he's going to have a little bit of recovery to do, but maybe just saw what was happening up front and said, no, I'd rather stay out of that for the time being. And, you know, to be honest, I don't blame him this early in the race. And you see all that chaos, maybe just want to let it go. Kevin Foster now to the bottom, a comfortable, very aggressive pass down to the bottom on the 04 car, just sent it, and the car had the grip to make it work. Now he's right behind the 99 to Brandon Jackson, trying to keep within, the slipstream's length, which I think he's comfortably doing right now. With Brett Guzik, you know, I think he's on older tires because he didn't pit on that last cycle, but Well, for the time being, it looks like he should be able to compete with the pack for now, but Davey Hendricks, who is on new tires in the 21 entry, going to go to his inside, try to get back into the top 3.
Yeah, just so we can clear up something other than the caution. The 36 was the cause of the caution. He hit the barrels, so at least that solves that problem. As the we got a caution right now. Let's go.
Whoa, yeah, huge wreck here as we see Mark Alan Bivens. He got his first career podium last week. Sad to see that he's involved. Lee Tankersley tonight, the 28 truck making his debut. I think that's Jonathan Platt in his new livery there in the 43 running the Georgia entry. Matt Crockett somewhere on track has crashed as well. This is looking like a big wreck, so let's go back to the beginning and see what happened there.
Yeah, it's too bad for Mark Allen, man. I'm looking forward to seeing his progression through this series. So hopefully he can go in, use that fast repair, and do all right. Yeah, it looks like the 6. Is it the 6? I'm sorry. Got into the 4 car and then went up the track and wrecked the 43 and the 38 or 28.
Well, I think it looked like at the start there, Robert Mathis was involved with somebody. Yeah, you see the considerable damage to his truck. We'll go back just a moment ago, so get his perspective on that replay. So, yeah, here is Robert Mathis. Just gets tapped. That's the 4 truck. Last week's winner of Tre Ellis. Just gets a little bit high. It looks like he kind of turned down late on entry, but I can't tell. I don't want to comfortably say that is the case. And
yeah, he definitely got pulled down. I don't know if it was net code, I don't know if it was arrow, but the 29 got pulled down into the 4. I think he was just trying to side draft, maybe try to stay close to him. But I don't think it was anything malicious of any sort. It's just it was one of those kind of racing incidents where he thought he could arc the corner and the 4 was just happened to be there, and then he got kind of ran over from behind by the 43 through no fault of the 43s. It just kind of one of those things that happens. And a few other trucks got taken out in that whole ordeal.
Yeah, Connor Zook got caught as well. I'm seeing another truck there just a few entries back. Curtis Michaelis again in the 07 truck is involved. He was involved in an incident a little bit earlier. Lee Tankersley again, I believe making his first appearance in the series, making his debut in the 28 truck. He was caught in that as well. Don't think he was able to limp it back to pit road in a very smoking number 28 truck. So there's the pace car making its appearance for the 3rd time in tonight's race, or I guess 4 if you count the official race start. But there is Jonathan Platt in the 43 truck. Again, remember that amazing move he had last week at Daytona there towards the end. Came one major wreck away from winning the entire thing. And, well, unfortunately, he's not going to have such a great follow-up tonight. But possibly, if he can get back out of the pits before the lead pack comes around, maybe he can stay on the lead lap and he'll still be in this. But now, it is Jackson, Foster, Hendricks, Guzik, and Welch. Some real big names there in the top 5 that will take us to green after the next restart. Got to wonder if, who was it there? Was it Brett Guzik that was, seemingly on old tires there you saw in that last pit cycle, because he was having trouble keeping the grip there to keep up with the lead pack. It doesn't appear to be coming down pit road this time, so, of that top 5 there, is there anybody, Mitch, that you've seen so far that you think has maybe gone under the radar, or anybody in the top 10 you want to keep an eye out for? No? Sorry. I guess we've briefly lost Mr. Mitch Sullivan. Hopefully he gets his stuff figured out there, and hopefully it was a very terrifying mic sound, so hopefully he's okay, and we will get an update in just a moment. But for now, again, Brandon Jackson there, your race leader. Let's go back a little bit in the top 10 again. Talk about Cale Zook in the 44 car. I know he's kind of been the guy we've been talking about all the way through as, tonight's specific driver that's a little bit out of the ordinary. But, he's been quick in the past, but tonight is just a star-studded performance to qualify in the top 10 in such a big grid. And really all the way throughout tonight's race, he stayed in the top 10, and well, there he is, looking comfortable. Right behind him, Jason Greenwell, a guy we talk about a lot in the series. It was one of our playoff drivers last season, and I know this season he's definitely going to try to, at minimum, follow up with that and make his way into the top 16 come playoff time. But the 83 truck, one of the best liveries in the series, and always wearing the very fancy shirts there on the Skype camera. So hopefully we'll see one of those fancy shirts there in the post-race interviews sooner rather than later. But we did see that with Tre Ellis last week. Last week's race winner, you'll notice Thomas Fensler's photo no longer on his graphic there on the bottom, so we got that all figured out. But Tre Ellis won at Daytona in clutch fashion, just, came to the line all by himself, avoided that final wreck, and, as long as he can make enough races in the regular season, is the first driver to punch his ticket to the playoffs. So keep an eye on him throughout this race. Unfortunately, I have a graphic for him that I didn't actually get a chance to set up. Maybe I can do that as we go along, but Tre Ellis, man, he's if he can go 2 for 2, he's in the top 10. I know there's a ton of competitive trucks up front, but I'd imagine not a bad way to start off his season to make two top 10s, maybe even 2 top 5s in a row to start off the year.
Tre, like, I'm not surprised, based on his racing ability, but for him to be able to back it up at two different courses and be able to have such a difference in your driving styles and be able to come around here and do the same thing that he was doing last week, just staying with it and keeping himself viable for the end of the race. I'm just really impressed.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some guys this season that they're making themselves known, and it's really exciting to see. And tonight, got a long way to go here, Mitch. Is we're not even halfway yet. We got plenty of racing to do, but there's some top guys mixed all around the field. Here's Nick Nickerson currently back in 15th. Jason Stewart again in the 41 truck, making a name for himself tonight. He's in 11th. There are some big names in this race that are all throughout the field. So the pace truck getting ready to take the left-hander onto pit road, and now it has your two leaders, the 99 of Jackson and the 8 of Foster, taking the green flag for the fourth restart of the night. Brandon Jackson, a much better jump than he had on that last restart, way back in the pack. There is an aggressive block being made. I think that's Jason Stewart and Ricky Hart getting involved. Maybe not, maybe a couple other trucks, but as we come through turns 1 and 2, Brandon Jackson comfortably pulling ahead of the 8 truck.
Yeah, for sure. Caution's already out. It seems like we've already had an incident as we get halfway through the first lap.
Yes, indeed. That was a quick one. We're seeing a couple guys. I'm seeing Connor Sawyer was involved. Let's find him on track, the 3 truck. Yes, indeed. Seeing the aftermath here. Robert Mathis, who was just up front a moment ago. Remember, he was leading a considerable portion of last week's race. He is involved. That's the 88 truck you see in the background there. Benny Hogan on the inside. So presumably happened coming off of turn number 2. Let's go to the replay and check out what happened for our 4th caution of the night.
Yeah, I think Benny was having a little bit of an issue earlier in the race as well, and this is not going to fare very well. Yeah, look, the 94 gets into the 3, kind of turns him around. They're able to save it for a second, but then 3 comes back up into the 94, and they wreck the back half of the field. So it's unfortunate for those guys. The 88 slaps the wall again.
Yeah, I got to see what happened to the 94 truck. Yeah, just got a little bit low in the apron. Got into the 3 truck and brought a couple other drivers in, as it always seems to go here at Homestead, especially with multi-groove racing. Typically if you wash up to the high line, there's somebody there just doing their best to conserve tires, running their line.
The 29 got caught up in that as well, and that's really unfortunate. He was a very strong truck, Mathis, in the 29, earlier in the race, so it really, really sucks to see him get caught up in that.
Yeah, here's his perspective. You see all the smoke there on the bottom line. You can just see the truck starting to wash up, and actually somebody from behind catches him.
Yeah, it looks like the 55, maybe.
But let's just get Connor Sawyer's perspective, because he didn't really, expect it coming. I'd imagine he was comfortably ahead of Hunter Henry. I think there once Henry got loose on the inside line, dropped below the line, I think he thought he was clear, but just got tagged there a little bit, caught in the quarter panel. And of course these trucks, that's the last place you want to go, and really you can see his hands he's trying to save it, but too many trucks behind him getting domino affected back up to him. And just like that, Connor Sawyer, who had a really good race last week at Daytona as well, he had a strong performance in the opener. There's Robert Mathis getting back up to speed, and yeah, he had a great performance at Daytona, and it's sad to see that at least for now the 3 truck isn't going to be able to follow it up.
Yeah, like you mentioned, when you get tagged in the right rear or the left rear of these trucks, it's really hard to recover. The weight balance is so much different from that of the stock car variety. You have more of a weight balance towards the middle of the car, and these you have so much open area, especially when you're depending on that back end, that spoiler to absorb so much of that downforce, that when you get that out of whack, it's just really hard to recover. And it's nothing against these guys when you can't recover from something like that. It's not a lack of skill. It's just one of those things that kind of comes along with truck racing.
Yeah, unfortunately so. It's again, a valuable commodity. We talked about it a lot last week at Daytona, but just finding a way through wrecks, finding a way to keep the hands moving at all times when you see things starting to go a little bit south in front of you. It was a key at Daytona, perhaps not quite so much at Homestead, but well, it's a valuable commodity and something that'll help you rack up the points over the course of a long season. But there is your championship points there. You're seeing the top 5 there from last week being Tre Ellis, Cody Welch, Mark Alan Bivens, Jonathan Platt, and Kevin Foster. That is not the exact order from the top 5 last week, or no, actually it is. So it is the exact top 5, but there were bonus points involved, which is why Cody Welch and Tre Ellis are tied there on points. But is your championship order heading into tonight. I don't know why all the graphics say team or why all the colors are white, so we'll get that figured out. Again, you gotta learn throughout the course of the season. I've never had this graphic do that, but there is your order in the championship for the top 18. Let's go to the next set here. There is your, no, that is your next 9. There's your next 18. So Mason Flagar after that at the end, or the beginning of the 20s, all the way down to Jason Greenwell there you see in 38th, and then a couple more drivers, a couple stragglers there in points at the very end who just really didn't have the races they would have liked, I'd imagine, there at Daytona. And Ricky Hart Jr., one of the drivers who did not make the race, as well as Christopher Ferrara, neither driver was in the field for the season opener. They round off your points at 0, but well, I knew they'd be in the knew they'd be in the field tonight, so I figured it was only fair to put those guys up as well.
Another guy, 13, the Christopher Ferrara. He's a great driver. I know him as well. You know, he and Charles and I are buddies, and we try to. You know, Charles unfortunately missed the race tonight. You know, it's not the best circumstances, but I know Charles. He'll fight back, and he'll be back ready to go next week. And I don't think he's going to miss 2 in a row. But yeah, good to see Chris here this week, and great to see that Ricky was able to make the field. So. Yeah, it looks like we're going to go back to green here with like halfway. So, yeah, it looks like the 99 and the 8 are still duking it out. The 04 of Brett Guzik, he's running 4th. Benjamin Lacey in 5th.
Yeah, looking for Brett on my telemetry. I think he's dropped back. Actually, Brett Guzik is down there in 33rd. He's not even on track right now on my telemetry, so he's had some sort of incident on his end, at least as far as I'm seeing. So I'm not sure what happened there for him, but it's Welch and Hendricks there on the outside and inside of row number 2, respectively. But there we go. Brandon Jackson going to lead the field to green once again for the 4th time tonight off of a restart. Brandon Jackson comfortably clear of the cars behind into turn 1. Cody Welch in the 85 car doing his best to get in line with him. Yeah,
you mentioned earlier in the race, Cody Welch, he was going to make a run towards the front. You weren't wrong whatsoever. You know, he's up to 2nd now, and he's going to be able to keep up with the 99 of Brandon Jackson, it seems, so far. And Kevin Foster, you know, he's still there. Oh, we got a yellow again.
We do indeed. It's just like last week at Daytona. We went without one for a while, but once you get one, typically cautions breed cautions, one after another. I'm seeing on my telemetry Curtis Yancey, Steve Ulrich, Robert Mathis once again. A couple drivers involved. Considerable damage to the Gunslinger number 51 truck there for Yancey. We're seeing in the background there Steve Ulrich. I know you talked about Mitch last week, that you have a history with him. You've raced with him for a while, so a couple big names in this next wreck. And again, Robert Mathis once again in the 29 truck involved.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, you don't want to see anybody, you know, kind of run their race here, but it is a tough track to race at, and you know, you're always going to end up separating the men from the boys when it comes to these difficult 1.5 milers, especially with the, you know, the 3 lanes of racing, the tire wear especially. You know, it's kind of one of those things where you don't know what's going to happen. You can just only hope for the best, and unfortunately, you know, you're going to have some guys who don't fare as well as the others.
I'm just trying to rewatch this wreck quickly because I don't know what happened to the truck there that bounced off the top line there into the 51 of Yancey. I'm hearing from Mr. Evan Wall Media, again, our official off-track correspondent. I'm being told to go check the perspective of Willie Evernham. Let's go to his in-car camera here and see his perspective on the wreck. So again,
and also the 10 of Matt Crockett has lost internet, so he's going to lose a few laps if he's able to reconnect.
Oh, that really sucks. That's the last thing you want to see. I know Irixon's had some troubles with that all week. Wow! Whoa! That was a lot of smoke. Holy!
Kudos to the 19. Wow, that was the Xfinity more than fast moment of the week.
It was. Look at the chaos going on in front of him. Just kept his foot to the floor, like Kimi Räikkönen style there at Spa a couple years ago. Just kept the foot to the floor, racer's mentality, and just rolled with the punches. Wow.
And I'm so impressed that you mentioned my favorite Formula One driver, Kimi Räikkönen. one of the greatest interviews in the history of journalism.
Oh, well, from a certain perspective, if you want to get it over with quick, Kimi's the guy to go to. But yeah, Kimi's a great driver, and there's Nolan Gross, who we were going to hopefully talk to him pre-race, but unfortunately just didn't have the time. He got caught in the aftermath of that, and then got caught by Connor Sawyer. So probably got spun around in the corner panel about 3 times in one wreck. We're going to go to one more camera angle. Again, we've seen this quite a few times, but I just want to see what happened to Steve Ulrich, because him bouncing off the top side is kind of what kicked that whole wreck off, and I want to see what happened on his side of things. Yeah,
Steve and I are good buddies from, long ago, and I want to see. I'm curious to see. Yeah, he tried to go down to avoid the 5 coming up the track, and he was unfortunately he tagged the 51 of Curtis Yancey. It looks like not intentional, but unfortunate. And there's Mark Alan Bivens as well.
Yeah, he got caught up there in the aftermath again last week. Finished third on the podium there at Daytona. Had his first career podium in the Bandit Racing League, and another guy. Unfortunately, it seems like for the most part, Mitch, the guys that were having a ton of success last week at Daytona, struggling this week. The guys that were struggling at Daytona are doing great tonight, like Brandon Jackson, Cody, Welch. Kind of just maybe the nature of racing in that way.
Yeah, the pendulum always swings back just as far as it swings in one direction than the other way. So, you can kind of expect that when you go from somewhere that's so different, like a place like Daytona, where your main focus is choosing the right lane at the right time and drafting, you're full throttle the whole way, to a place where you have to actually, once you've put 10 laps on the tires, you got to start using the brake. You can't use the brake too much.
Mm-hmm.
And it also depends on which lane you're in. So there's a lot of technical, skill that's going to be different from what you would have at a played track. So it's it's nothing taken away from anybody. Some people have different skills that are different at different tracks, and this track just takes a different type of skill. So, it's one thing to watch for is you'll really see who's good at their tire management and throttle control and their braking as well when it comes to a track like Homestead.
Just want to very quickly put up this lovely graphic that Evan Wall made this past week, and there is your playoff outlook. We're going to have this every week on the broadcast just to update you on the playoff status, besides just the championship points going into every week. And there are your winners. Again, the winners in this series get locked into the playoffs, provided they make a minimum number of races. And your first race winner last week was Tre Ellis, so he is locked into the playoffs, provided he makes a certain number of races. And on the right side there, you can see the top 12 in points. Cody, Welch, Mark Alan Bivens, Jonathan Platt, Kevin Foster, a few names that were great last week, and only 2 of those drivers having success tonight. Welch still in second. He's on the inside of the row, just about to go green, so he is having success. But besides that, your cutoff drivers, Michaelis, Wright, and Guzik, just outside of the top 12. So we'll keep you updated on that front for the rest of the season. But for the time being, we are getting ready to go green. Jackson again with a comfortable jump. Cody Welch immediately sliding in behind. We've got chaos behind him. That is Nick Nickerson, the 2 truck involved. Whoa! Over-rolling into the pit wall. Tons of trucks involved. This is getting chaotic.
Yeah, we talked about this, before the race broadcast. I had mentioned when you get about 15 laps on these tires, they start to get greasy. It starts to get harder to handle, and you're more prone to mistakes as soon as you start losing grip. And it looks like Nick was unfortunately a victim of that circumstance.
He was indeed, and what a big name to get involved in a crash off of a restart there like that. You almost, again, I talk about it all the time, but you never see Nick get involved in wrecks, and I guess right there, that change. Whoa, what happened to Jason Greenwell there? That was...
Yeah, it looks like the 83 missed a shift, according to our pit reporter, Evan. He's let us know that he said the 83 missed a shift, and that kind of checked everybody up, and I think that's what happened.
Wow, that does really suck there for Nick Nickerson, because, again, entirely out of his control. That is typically how it works when we see these wrecks. So let's go back out a ways just to watch from the in-car perspective on Jason Greenwell's track. We'll see if we can see that considerable drop-off in speed. So you see he's getting ready to go green here. Starts up okay, like
Yep. He went down into the 2. The 2 was probably trying to get a really good line coming into the tri-oval, and he had no idea that was going on to his right side, and unfortunately got caught up into that. That's a tough break, but hopefully with the 2 car, he hasn't used that quick repair, and he'll be able to fix it up and get back out there.
Well, so we say that, but look at his gearbox there. Look at, I'm wondering. I don't think it would make sense if he's keeping an eye on his telemetry, but that looked to me like he tries to go up into gear, doesn't work. He sees Nick get involved, and then he still can't get up a gear. Listen to the revs on his truck, and just keep an eye on his rev limiter there.
Oh yeah. That is quite strange, He was able to stick it at 8,000 RPMs to kind of tick back and forth. Do you think maybe he had a fuel issue?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm going to have to check in a moment where he was in terms of pit cycles right before that. But we got to get a bigger shot once more of the wreck just to see what happened in the aftermath. But Yeah, that was bizarre. It just looked like he got stuck in second gear, and I've never seen a truck on iRacing do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're running with the clutch and the H pattern shifter, I mean, it's definitely feasible that you could get it stuck, but it seems kind of an odd place to have that happen, and for that long. I know when in the past when I've missed shifts, I was able to correct it pretty quick. And unfortunately, the 84 got caught up in that too. That's no good, and the 22 as well of Tally. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing the list of names involved. I'm seeing Towley, Guzik, Leakey, Bill Harkins was involved as well. You see the truck coming out, the smoke coming out of the back of the 11 truck. Anthony Caetano, you see the paint taken off the number on the left side. So a number of guys involved, but again, most notably, Mr. Nick Nickerson, defending series champion, and he is in the pits as we speak. I don't know if he had to tow back, he had to take a quick repair, but he was in there a little ways, and let's find out where the leaders are. Did he manage to stay on the lead lap? I believe he has, but I may be wrong. So as long as he is, things aren't that bad. You can always recover from being on the tail end of the lead lap, but it narrowly avoids disaster there for Nick Nickerson. That could have been a terrible way to start off the second race of his season after already having some unfortunate luck late in the race at Daytona.
Yeah, it's already showing Nick. He's one lap down. It looks like he used the fast repair because it didn't take very long, and his truck's looking pretty good aero-wise. So it looks like he may be fighting for the lucky dog because, I mean, you've got Victor Weaver, Mark Alan Bivens, Bill Harkins, and Anthony Caetano ahead of him as far as the readouts going, showing them also one lap down. So it looks like he's going to have a little bit of work to do to get back on that lead lap. He's got to pass about 4 cars to get that lucky dog spot.
He does, but I feel like in the past, whether it be at Richmond or at Road America, he can fight through the adversity for sure. And yeah, I think that's a great point, Mitch. His best chance now probably to go for that lucky dog, and that means even though he's out of a quick repair, you'd think that he'd probably want to be a little bit more conservative there just to make sure that he didn't burn through the other one and take himself out of the race entirely. But at the same time, he's got to get back through the field. He's got to get back in the lead lap if he wants to win this race, which we've seen in the past, Mitch, what our defending champion is capable of. He wants to go for the race win.
Yeah, I wouldn't count him out, but at the same time, he's got, like I said, he's a lap down. He's got a lot of work to do. So first, you've got to manage that. It's one of those things where you've got to take things as they come. You got to first get off that lap down status. Once you get past that, then you can start making your way up through the field. But it's not going to be easy. These guys up front, they're not joking around. The 99, the 85, the 8, the 21. You also got the 7 looking in here, Benjamin Lacey, and then my pick, the 41 of Jason Stewart. I don't think he's joking around with him either as we go back to green.
We do indeed. Green flag for the 5th time off a restart tonight. 6th in general, Brandon Jackson, a great jump. And we are going to go around for one lap as we wait and see. Hopefully we don't get another yellow, but let's just, get a chance to admire the sound of these trucks as we head around through 1 and 2 at Homestead Miami Speedway.
Yeah, Brandon Jackson's out to a comfortable lead here. It looks like Cody Welch is trying to keep up with him, but Brandon just have something else for these guys as Kevin Foster's going to look to the inside of the 85. And we've got David Hendricks running the outside as well, in the 7 of Benjamin Lacey and the 44 of Cale Zook trying to keep up. But Brandon Jackson just really in a class by himself tonight. And I hope he can keep that up because he's looking really impressive out there.
Very quickly before we drive back to the lead lap battle, Curtis Yancey is coming down pit road, having to serve a penalty for accruing a certain number of incident points. I believe it's 16 currently in the series. They've lowered the cap, and Curtis Yancey has hit that, so he's coming down pit road, and that'll no doubt hurt his chances tonight. He's probably going to lose a lap there, but should be coming out just about that point where he can still compete with those guys battling for the lucky dog, like Nick Nickerson. But back to the front, just what a race. I mean, maybe I'm the lucky jinx here for him, because last season, whenever we talked about him, he would always have some sort of horrible situation that would befall where he got sent back in the pack. But so far, called him as my race prediction for the win, just seeing what he's done in the past at these 1.5 miles, and he's doing it again and just so comfortable there off those restarts tonight. And I think late in the race, I don't know about you, Mitch, but with how many cautions we've been seeing, I think that is going to be a very, very helpful skill to have, is to have the ability there off the restarts from the pole.
For sure, Brandon has been in a league of his own when it comes to restarts, tonight. And it's really great to see a guy who is that kind of like he's kind of like the almost like the mascot for the league. You know, he's a guy who is really great enthusiasm for racing. He really loves what he does. He's not afraid to put the bumper to you as well. But when it comes down to it, you know, he's just the kind of guy that you always want to like be around. Like he's such a happy dude. He does like the intro pep talk for the first of the race. It's a really cool thing he's always done, and it's really great to see a guy like him running in front. But tough break for, like you said, for Curtis Yancey. You know, that guy's got a lot of talent. You know, he's not going to be shy about telling you how much talent he's got, and it's just too bad to see him having to take a pit and end up, you know, a little bit farther back than he should have been.
Still keeping an eye here on this battle. Kevin Foster narrowly holding off Cody Welch, but also Davey Hendricks and Benjamin Lacey, two drivers that I think, provided Hendricks was in the series a little earlier in Season 8, probably would have been battling there for the spots in the championship for two guys that were so good last season, so consistent every race they were in. And right behind, Ricky Hart Jr. had kind of a quiet night tonight since the start of the race when he qualified on the outside of the front row, but now he is locked in a battle with Tony Hilbrands, the 92 truck, the great-looking neon purple and green entry, down to the inside, side by side through turn number 2.
Yeah, back out here at the front, I mean, there's nothing going on other than the 99 of Brandon Jackson just leaving everybody behind, it seems, so far. You know, Kevin Foster in the 8 car is trying to make some progress. He's been able to pass Cody Welch in the 85, but he's still got a long ways to go. You know, Brandon's really putting the hurt on him as far as this goes, but I wouldn't look too far back. You know, the 21 of Davey Hendricks and the 7 of Benjamin Lacey, they seem to be making progress. If they can manage their tires, they're going to be back up or even with them pretty soon.
Yeah, the Floridian Davey Hendricks, again, as I mentioned, couldn't go back-to-back at the Super Speedways last week at Daytona, but was definitely a factor. And now that great-looking M&M's number 21 truck trying to make his way back into the podium spots where he was so often last season. Even in his debut race, he was able to make his way into the podium last season, I believe, at Darlington. So here he goes. No, I believe he won at Darlington, possibly. He got 2 wins on the season. He had a really great year overall, but yeah, plenty of podiums for him. He's trying to make his way back, but Cody Welch last season, often when he was in the podium spots, he was doing so at the top of it. You know, he had 3 wins on the season right next to Nick's, I believe, 6 or 7, so I know Cody is gonna keep trying to fight his way through, but again, Brandon Jackson just almost in a different zip code at this point. What an event he's had so far.
Yeah, I don't want to count out too soon the 6th place car of Tony Hilbrands, the 92. You know, Tony's been pretty quiet all through the night, just kind of running consistently up there, but he really seems to have something going for him as he tries to get around the 7 car. He's working the low line and fading back up in behind the 7 and using the draft to his advantage. So that's a guy you might want to keep an eye on coming forward to the end of the race. He really looks strong. He looks consistent, and I wouldn't count him out of a top 5.
Here's a battle again that, you know, maybe even Kelzook himself didn't expect to see. He's going around the outside of defending former champion in Season 7, Ricky Hart. What a race for the 44 truck. He's to the outside. He's got the run, and he's got the momentum, I think, to get it done. Now to the outside, going to ride the high line. He's going to have more momentum, and he beats him down to the braking zone. Around the outside, Ricky Hart still sort of slipping back, but he's in the top 8. He's in a good spot. And there's a truck we haven't seen it a little bit, but was such a factor at the beginning of this race. Gotta wonder if just down to fuel and tire cycles, maybe still has a chance to go for the win tonight. But Jason Stewart making his debut and is still off to a great start here in the series.
Yeah, for sure. As far as debuts go, Jason Stewart should be pretty happy with the way he's shown himself, you know, in this race. He really has been impressive. You know, it takes a lot to catch the eye of the guy watching every week, but when you're able to do that, you know, you've really done something right. And so here's hoping that Stewart can really maybe finish out this race maybe on the podium. So we'll see, you know, as far as things play out here. But he's looking pretty good as the 22 car tally is getting lapped as we go. He's running the outside line now.
What a battle we're seeing here. 4 different spots involved. There's Hendricks getting Welch for 3rd. So Davey Hendricks, as I was just mentioning a moment ago, back up into one of his many podium positions he's been in his very short, well, actually almost a full season at this point in the series. But Benjamin Lacey there, Tony Hilbrands in the catbird seats respectively, waiting for their opportunity to pounce. As Cody Welch didn't get a very good run off of turn number 3. Tony Hilbrands almost lost it there coming off of turn number 2. It looked very similar to that incident before. That wreck between, I think it was Nolan Gross, Steve Ulrich was involved. And almost a very similar situation, but the 92 driver, great job with his hands to keep the truck underneath him. Now the 7 car going to get right in behind Cody Welch there with the slipstream, should clear Hilbrands again. And Davey Hendricks, as all this chaos goes on behind him, is going to try to focus his eyes forward and is now right behind Kevin Foster. You see right up in front of him in the shot.
Yeah, Kevin Foster is really looking, trying to chase down the 99, but the 99 is just in a class by himself. So at this point right now, you're kind of racing for second place. You know, you see the 7 of Benjamin Lacey looking inside the 85 of Cody Welch. You've got the 21 of Davey Hendricks still sticking that top line. He's just able to be consistent. But Kevin Foster, he's a man on a mission right now, and his mission is to overtake the 99 of Brandon Jackson.
I mean, keep in mind, we do have one more pit stop, so always the potential for something to go wrong there under pit cycles, or maybe somebody has a really good in-lap that isn't the 99 truck. But right now, the 7 truck, Benjamin Lacey, around the outside on Cody Welch. There is a nice move, and Benjamin Lacey as well. Probably the most quiet driver of the top 4 in last year's championship. I don't think we talked about him nearly enough, but he deserved more attention. That 7 truck is one of the most consistent names in the series, and perhaps it's because right behind him, Cody Welch is coming down pit road for his final stop of the day.
Yeah, the 85 pitting now. Thanks to Evan for giving us a heads up on that. Could this be the undercut that, you know, you only need 30 laps on fuel, so you only got 26 laps left. This could be the winning move of the race. We'll have to keep an eye on Cody and see if this is the way to go.
It could be. That's a great point, Mitch. I think that would be a good move on his behalf because, yeah, you got 30 whole laps that you can make on a tank of fuel, maybe even a little bit more than that. So, you know, take the tires as soon as you can. If you have an extra set waiting in the pits, like take those, get on them early, run more laps on a fresh set of rubber. Cody Welch, as you see in the background, Brandon Jackson going by, so he is going to lose a lap there. But yeah, if he's on fresher tires, we know Brandon will have to pit no matter what. So I don't know. I think it's a good move there from Cody, but we'll see how it plays out for him. And this is going to be the time where if we continue green to the very end, this is going to become a strategy race. But right in the back, I can't believe I just missed it. Davey Hendricks getting the move done on Kevin Foster, the 21 truck again. This is the Davey Hendricks from the end of last season that we're starting to see again. And with a full season under his belt this year, provided he can run every race of season number 9, Davey Hendricks could be a title contender, and he's showing why right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm wondering if these guys know that the 85 is pitted already, because, you know, if the longer they wait, the worse of the spot they're going to be in, because, you know, Cody wasn't that far behind the 99, the leader there. And so if they let it run too many laps, they're going to end up, you know, falling victim to a guy with fresher tires. And if you give up that clean air, it's going to be really hard to get it back, regardless of how fast your truck is.
There is Cody Welch sneaking by there again. Remember, he just pitted a moment ago. Might be the winning move. We saw in the chat just a moment ago that Cody's got a trick up his sleeve, and maybe this is it. It's a good move, and just similar to F1, which, you know, Mitch, I know we're both mutually interested in, that I think, yeah, when somebody goes for an undercut, you got to have some sort of defensive move to block it off, and that is not what we're seeing. But right now, Tony Hilbrand's coming down pit road. Aaron Smith, remember how big of a factor he was early in the 42 truck, now trying to pit strategy his way back up to the front of the field. Peter Murphy as well in the 38 truck coming down pit road, and last week's winner, Tre Ellis, is in his pit box as well. So we'll see how the race off pit road goes for them. But for the time being, I think it is going to be Tony Hilbrand's off first, unless Aaron Smith can beat him out of the box. But Benjamin Lacey and Ricky Hart coming down. Whoa! Ricky Hart in the background. How did he avoid contact with the 7 truck?
Yeah, it's getting crazy, you know, down in the pits. I know the 19 of Willie Evernham pitted as well. We just had the 99 go around the 3. It looks like that is a lapped car in this case. But it makes you wonder, you know, the 85 of Cody Welch is catching the 99 as we go right now. So he's going to get his lap back. So at this point, you know, it was the 99 of Brandon Jackson coming in right now.
Here he comes, the 99 truck down pit road. Your race leader is now in the box, or getting to the box, I should say. Davey Hendricks, the Floridian, right behind him. Kevin Foster right behind the 21 truck. And again, a great race for Cale Zook. It would be great to see him get a podium to pay off his efforts, but the final 4 are in the box. Nolan Gross now coming down pit road as well. So your top 5 are in. Curtis Yancey actually might factor out as the race leader, but again, I think knowing the pit cycles, presumably we'll still have to make one more pit stop. Let's check his last, but yeah, it's been ages for him, it would seem. So he's going to have to make one more stop. This will not be the move for the win, but, well, hey, at least he's back up to the top of the order, and now back on the lead lap. But Cody Welch, this is what we were talking about, Mitch. Cody Welch now up to second. He's just coming out of turn number 2. Where is Jackson? Only on the pit road. So if honestly, I think that's going to be the move that Brandon's going to be regretting. If we don't get a caution at the end, pitting for tires early, getting the most out of that fresh set of rubber he had left in the pits, that may be the move that gives Cody his first win of the year.
For sure, and this is where, like, not having a spotter is going to come into play, because if you've got a spotter, watching out for you, they're going to let you know, this guy in fifth just pitted, so you're going to need to undercut him, or you're going to need to match his undercut because he's going to be coming for you. But the 85 of Cody Welch, he's going to cycle in to be the leader, and, he's going to be the guy to catch. And if this goes green, I don't think there's anybody that's going to be able to touch him.
No, I think you're right. And looking here at the pit strategy graph, I think Nickerson definitely. Well, Hendricks just came down pit road a moment ago, so Connor Sawyer now dropping below the line. He's getting ready to go in. He was sitting third for a moment. But Nick Nickerson still has one more pit stop to make up, so he got back into the top 5, or maybe he just pitted a moment ago. I can't actually see him on my spot. No, there he is. He's still in the 7th spot in the number 2 truck. So with that earlier wreck that he was involved in, he's still going to be down a pit stop. So he's currently 7th for the time being, and now dropping back to 8th behind Tony Hillbrands and Aaron Smith there. Everybody's going by on the underside of him with new tires. Hurt and Lacey are still battling as well. This could be a very fun battle between the 64 and the 7. But yeah, just for the second week in a row, unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like Nick Nickerson's night towards the end of the race.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't counting out by any means when it comes to the championship. But yeah, it is kind of an odd showing to see him have 2 in a row where he didn't fare too well. But Cody Welch in this 85, man, what can you say about this guy? He had the pit strategy down. It looks like he's a very strong truck to begin with. He was already catching the 99. So, I mean, unless something happens when it comes to caution flags, I mean, he's going to be really tough to beat. And even so, when you get that caution flag, if that happens, he's going to be tough to beat on the restart as well, because he's going to have control of that restart.
I just saw a quick tip there in the chat from series driver Michael Ramos. Thank you for that information there, Michael. Made me go check, and I'm glad I did. This thing is not over. Look at the difference per lap in the last 3 laps from Welch to Jackson. Those older tires on the 85 might come back to bite him. The 99 truck, he's just under 3 seconds behind, but he's making up half a second a lap with 18 laps to go. The math is not working in the 85's favor. So just getting a tip here from Evan Wall that the 2 truck is trying to hold out for a caution before he comes down pit road, and probably not a bad idea, because if he has to pit under green, Nick Nickerson is going to be solidly out of the top 20.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to come down to the wire as far as this goes. But, I didn't realize the 85 and the 99 were on different pit strategies. I figured they had pitted around the same time. But if this keeps going in this direction, Brandon Jackson's only 2.5 seconds the last lap behind the leader. So as long as we go green, he's going to catch him. But even if we don't go green, he's going to catch him. So at this point, it's just kind of a wait and see kind of situation. And it seems like the inevitable seems to be the 99, maybe even the 8. They've got this wrapped up. So we'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully the 85, he can hold them off.
Yeah, and this is just something I want to point out very quickly before we get to that battle, I imagine, again, for the lead between Welch and Jackson. And yeah, just kind of that's the flip side of the undercut. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and maybe just a little bit too soon. But that shouldn't take away from Brandon Jackson's lap. Fresher tires or not, he is flying right now in the 99 truck, but perhaps not as much as the guy behind him. Kevin Foster, only about 2 seconds behind the number 99 truck there in the number 8 entry with, that is, I believe it is, it's Mark Alan Bivens right ahead of him. So the last couple of laps, he has run, that's the wrong graphic. We need this guy. There you go. Running quicker every one of the last 5 laps is Kevin Foster, as much as 2.5 tenths on lap number 82, and the last couple only by a couple of hundredths. But still, he's making up time, and he doesn't have that far to go with 15 laps to go. So Cody Welch and Brandon Jackson, Cody's time might be up there in the lead, unfortunately, unless he can really find some grip he doesn't have at the moment. But Kevin Foster, don't count him out either. And Davey Hendricks, one of his many podiums again, could be tonight, but he's going to have to get past the, struggling on tires, the 85 of Cody Welch.
Yeah, it seems like Kevin Foster staying a consistent 2.5 seconds behind the inevitable leader of Brandon Jackson as he's looking to go around the 85 at this moment. Kevin Foster showing about 2.5 seconds behind, so we'll see if he's able to make that up. That's a big difference to make up, but it's not an insurmountable obstacle as far as time goes. But you're just going to have to kind of see how Brandon's able to manage his tires. But it'd be hard to bet against Brandon Jackson at this point.
It would indeed, and he is now your race leader, comfortably making the move on the 85 through turns number 3 and 4. He is back up to the point and looking good up there. So now clear by about 7, 8 tenths. Actually, Cody Welch is dropping back fast now, dropping like a rock now that Jackson got by him. And again, this is not to speak poorly about Cody Welch at all. He's had a great race tonight, and with 13 to go, I still don't think a podium is out of the question. But that undercut move looked great at the start, but if you aren't able to keep up with the tire wear after that, you can start to have struggles. And yeah, it's just the kind of the flip side, and really shows you, Mitch, just how important tires are here at Homestead. We talked about it earlier, but well, this is exactly it. One of the quickest guys in the field was keeping up with Jackson before, and on only 3 laps older tires, he's dropped back a second and a half in 2 laps.
Yeah, it's really amazing the kind of tire wear you're going to get, and the differential. You know, it's such a tight window to manage. You know, to fall into when it comes to the undercut and trying to get in early to get your tires. It seems like 3 laps, if it's going to make that bit of a difference. It just shows you how dominant of a truck that Brandon Jackson's really had if it's only a 3-lap difference on tires. Because if it was that big of a difference outside of that, then you wouldn't see a 1.8 second advantage after 2 laps of passing the guy. So it just shows to me that Brandon Jackson's doing something totally different that these guys haven't really caught on to yet.
Back a little ways in the field to this battle for 6th. Ricky Hart back up a couple spots. Again, still down 4 spots from the start of the race when he qualified on the outside pole, but since then, he has picked it up again. Ricky Hart, towards the end of this race, has been flying, and if he can get this worked out, I think this is going to pay off for him this season, because he's struggled towards the end of a few races last year, but now is looking quick. But down to the inside, Kel Zook in the 44 truck again, getting to his inside, giving him so much trouble. He's been a pest for the 64 all night. And right ahead of them, Jason Stewart, one of our favorites there from the beginning of the race. He was fun to watch. And now he's going to have to worry about some real quick, real experienced trucks right behind him. Again, still side by side between Hart and Zook.
Yeah, it looks like Stewart's the leader of this kind of second pack, if you will. Zook is looking towards the inside, but you know, Jason Stewart's able to run the top and, you know, fade it down to the low lane, you know, in a really, really nice manner, to where he's able to keep these guys behind him and maybe take even some air off the front of their trucks as they work around the 76 of the lap car, Mark Alan Bivens. You know, it may be too late for them unless we get a caution, but you know, this is kind of a race for the last spot in the top 5, so it's good. It's a good battle to keep an eye on.
And what a race it'll be. Cale Zook, a really aggressive send there through 3 and 4. Mark Allen staying at the top side and letting them by. Again, a shame that after his first career podium at Daytona last week and tonight's driver profile before the race, unfortunately he can do a little bit more there. And tonight, you know, got caught in a few wrecks, not by his fault whatsoever. Just wasn't his night, unfortunately. But there you go again. It's the 41 of Stewart holding on to the top 5. What a way to debut in the series it would be. But Cale Zook is the guy I'm keeping an eye on. I just cannot take my eyes off that truck. What a performance for him tonight. That might be a star-making drive that we kind of saw from Michael Ramos, who's in the chat. We saw at Charlotte last season from him, just that one race where everything clicks and you look like an absolute god killer. And that is what he is doing right now. Gets the move done on the 41 truck through 3 and 4. I just showed a moment ago Davey Hendricks making the move there on Cody Welch, who is dropping back throughout the pack. And he also dropped the spot to Foster. So Jackson, Foster, Hendricks, your podium at the moment. Cody Welch on old tires, still trying to keep the tires on that thing. But he's 3 seconds clear right now of this battle between Stewart, Zook, and Ricky Hart, trying to give the 44 truck a push. Coming to 6 to go this next time by.
Yeah, for sure. If we go green, we've got our podium lined out already. But what a great performance by some of these new guys in here. I mean, you know, we expect this from Brandon Jackson and Kevin Foster and even Davey Hendricks to some point. You know, they've all shown they have a great amount of talent. But guys like Kel Zook and Jason Stewart, you know, guys we don't really know very well. Aaron Smith as well. You know, he's doing really well running the ninth position right now.
Sorry, almost. How did they save that? Holy cow. We went to the in-car perspective on Ricky Hart there, and Stewart and Zook got together off of turn number 2, very similar to that caution we had a little ways earlier. I got it very quickly. We're seeing, yeah, right in the background there, Smith and Lacey are going by. But sorry, we just got to catch that quickly. How did they not wreck?
Right. That was some great skill to be able to avoid that door slam from the 41. Not sure who really started that. Not trying to lay any blame on anybody, but that was a heck of a move to be able to save it on both drivers' parts.
Well, now in the aftermath of that, Jason Stewart only lost the spot to Hart, but a few spots back as Cale Zook, the 44 truck, yeah, definite damage to the back end of his truck. Maybe took a bit of a hard lick there off the wall. He's going backwards, and that sucks to see, man. What a race he's had so far tonight. I'm hoping he can stay there in the top 10, but Jason Stewart and Aaron Smith, the two new names to the series that were just making waves at the beginning, qualified on the inside and outside of I believe, the second row. So they were just great there in qualifying, and since then they've stayed up front all race. But the 42 truck, I'm noticing a little bit less cosmetic damage to his truck than the 41 in front of him of Jason Stewart. So keep an eye on him in that battle. And Benjamin Lacey in the 7 truck, not too far behind, but I believe we're coming to 3 to go this time by, just went to 3 to go a moment ago. Brandon Jackson, just a quick update, he is still cruising up there, but this is the battle we want to watch now.
Yes.
Second position, Kevin Foster versus Davey Hendricks. Get your popcorn out, folks. This is going to be a battle for the ages for second.
Yeah, Davey is no joke to play around with. You know, that guy can really drive a car, and drive a truck in this case, too. As they come around some lat traffic, I mean, Davey's able to keep him pinned low. He's able to keep the throttle in at the high side. And no offense to Kevin Foster, but he's going to have a tough time battling with the 21 here as the 21 takes the second position.
2 laps to go. We're going to quickly switch to the ticker as Davey Hendricks, as you said, gets by through 3 and 4. He's going to go to the high line. Kevin Foster going to try to get on the low side. Can you go to the ticker so we can see a little bit more of the screen? That way it doesn't cut off the left side. Cuts off a bit of the top, but Bill Harkins, series leader, series coordinator, I should say, watching 2 of his best trucks going at it right in front of him. The 21 truck comfortably a couple of car lengths ahead as we head down to turn number 3. But up ahead, Brandon Jackson in the 99 truck, looking comfortable out there, coming to the white flag. Here we go. One more lap to go to finish off his event, but a little ways back in the field, Stewart, Smith, and Lacey are still having a great battle. What a night we've had at Homestead, and it is not done yet. Coming to the line for these guys, the 41 truck, a couple car lengths ahead of Smith, and Lacey not too far behind.
Yeah, Brandon Jackson, like, what can you say about this guy? He has been the truck to beat from the drop of the green flag. I mean, there's nothing you can say. This guy just had this course wrapped up. He had it down before we even dropped the green flag, and you know, a lot of respect to the guy. He's always been a really positive influence throughout the field, and good for him.
Checkered flag, what a drive! Brandon Jackson is your race winner at Homestead Miami in the Moo Makes 100. Davey Hendricks there a little ways back, rounding off the top 2. He gets just a couple car lengths ahead there at the end of Kevin Foster, so he'll hold him off for second. Kevin Foster coming home for one of his, many podiums in the history of the series, but the first one in a little bit, and I know he was sounding comfortable about the trucks, and it's good to see that he's picking that momentum up early. Cody Welch tried the undercut, tried the alternate strategy. It was losing time there at the end. He did not have the momentum of the leaders, but still holds on to a top 5 in 4th, and that's good to see. And Ricky Hart didn't get on the podium as he would have liked, but as a bounce back from last week where he didn't make the race at Daytona, period, good race for him. Good to see him get the top 5, and I'm sure he'll continue that momentum forward.
Yeah, what a great changeup from last week. You know, Brandon Jackson obviously in the 99 car pulling off the win, but Davey Hendricks, you know, he was in contention till late, and he got caught up in a wreck last week, and he was able to pull off a second position. And can't say enough about Kevin Foster. He was there all race long, and you know, a lot of respect for that guy for being able to do what he does. We see a dynamic burnout from the 99 of Brandon Jackson. Shades of Eric Amarola this weekend in New Hampshire, a race that I attended in person. What a heck of a burnout. Good job, Brandon. Something you like to see. You know, if you've been around this league long enough, you know this guy is a hell of a dude to hang out with. He's always in good spirits. He's always trying to, you know, just make things more fun, and he's kind of a fan favorite, I would assume. So good luck to you, Brandon. You know, great job.
Oh, he's absolutely a fan favorite. Everybody I've ever talked to loves him, and even members of my family, he's one of their favorites because just such a likable guy. And you know, again, didn't have the luck every race last season, but he got it done tonight. Let's just go to him, get a proper shot of him, do him some justice here.
Yeah, buddy. He's playing it cool, you know. A lot of respect to him. Like I said, he from the drop of the green flag, he has been a factor, and it was awesome to see. Kevin Foster takes a burnout to him. You know, good for him to celebrate too. But also Davey Hendricks, man, what a showing! That guy's always had a lot of a lot of talent since he joined the league. He's shown really well, and for him to finish runner up here is an understatement at best. Good job, Brandon. Yes, sir. uh, right. We love to see that energy.
Absolutely, that's great to see. Just what a way to start off his season again. Not the easiest end to his year last year, though he was in the championship 8. But good for him, man. So there is Brandon Jackson. Let's pull your graphics down and get to your race results here at Homestead Miami and the Moo Makes 100. Again, we'll talk more about them before the end of the broadcast. But there is your final order. Brandon Jackson tonight and the 99 truck. Oh, never mind, we're good. But, I just got kicked out of the Skype call, so we'll have back in there in the background. But there we go, we're all good. But Brandon Jackson, your race winner tonight here at Homestead Miami Speedway, winning by a margin of about 3 seconds over second place for Virtual Racing Alliance, Mr. Davey Hendricks in the 21 truck. I got to read these, and that is small writing for me. I'm sure it's not for you guys. But GFR Motorsports, that is the team made up of Kevin Foster and Nick Nickerson. And Kevin Foster will represent them tonight on the podium. He comes home for third. Cody Welch, again, did not have the tires there at the end, was on an alternate strategy, but made it work, kept in the top 5, and he comes home fourth. Ricky Hart Jr. following up an unfortunate race last week where he couldn't even compete at all, but at least this week he got in the grid, actually managed to make the race, and when he does, he is almost unstoppable. There is a reason why he's a former series champion, and tonight came home with the top 5. Jason Stewart, let's keep an eye on Kevin Foster because he's still out there having some fun as we speak. But so Jason Stewart making his debut tonight in the 41 truck was giving Nick Nickerson a heck of a time there at the start, and it was just looking like a force to be reckoned with. I can't wait to watch him next week. And Aaron Smith was looking great tonight at Homestead. Was looking great in an oval. But again, I keep hearing all these skills that he has at the road courses. I hear that's kind of his specialty. So I am looking forward to seeing what he can do there, seeing if he can give Nick some more trouble, perhaps at his home playground. But there is Benjamin Lacey in 8th. Another Championship 4 driver from last season. We know he's got talent, and for the first, again, you could almost call it real race for those guys that maybe were just a little bit more up to luck at Daytona than they were skill. Are happy to be here, and Benjamin Lacey proving why he's one of the best. He'll come home in 8th. Tony Hilbrands rounds off the top 9 there in the 9th position. He was a pretty big factor all the way through. I think he lost just maybe 1 or 2 spots there towards the end of the race, but stays in the top 10. And Tre Ellis, last week's winner at Daytona, back-to-back top 10s. Not a bad way to start off his season.
Yes, sir. Tre Ellis in 10th. That's a great finish for him. We're gonna go to Kale Zook, one of our new guys, finished in 11th. That's nothing to be ashamed of. When you come into this league of headhunters here that we have.
Yeah.
Peter Murphy running 12th. Jason Greenwell, he's gonna run 13th. Eddie Haggy, I don't know him very well, but pull off a top 15, with it being a relative unknown. That's an awesome feat there. Garrett Hall is going to be running 15th. Great for him. Nolan Gross, another guy we talked about being one of our newcomers, is going to finish in 16th. Christopher Ferreira, awesome to see him back in the field after missing the race last week. He's going to be running 17th. Willie Evernham, another guy that's a great dude to hang out with. He's going to be running 18th. Roman Henry finishing 19th. Robert Matheson 20th. And that's going to round out the top 20.
It will indeed. After that, we got Alan Castle finishing in the 21st spot. Victor Weaver after that coming home in 22nd. Nick Nickerson, a big name in the series, fellow GFR Motorsports driver, and he did not have the race he was hoping for tonight, I'd imagine. Unfortunately, got caught in a wreck early. It kind of alluded to the fact that, if you find yourself a little ways back in the pack, a little further back than usual, then you may get yourself caught in some stuff. And unfortunately, that's what happened to him tonight. He'll come home 23rd, but it's a long season, and I'm sure our defending champion will be back to usual form before long. After that, Curtis Yancey coming home in 24th. Yeah, after the struggles early, went a lap down, but to stay on a decent point spot in a race of 43 trucks, that is not a bad performance for him at all, and not a bad finish. And after that,
he'll bounce back.
He will. He always does. And again, some guys like him and Nick just didn't start off the season the way they would like. Same with Brett Guzik as well. He's had some troubles in the first 2 weeks, but again, not of his own fault necessarily. So they'll bounce back. They always do, and that's what separates the best from the rest. But Bill Harkinson 25th will round off your top 25. After that, we got Brett Guzik, we just mentioned a moment ago. He'll bounce back. Always one of the best in the series. Connor Sawyer in 27th. Mark Alan Bivens again got his first podium last week. Was our driver profile driver, and unfortunately not the race I'd imagine he would have liked. But 28th for him, and again another guy that I have high hopes for going forward. So the Double M Motorsports driver will finish in 28th, Gary Wright in 29th, and Anthony Caetano rounds off your top 30.
Yes, sir. 31st position. We're going to start off with Jeffrey Dorheffer. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. That right this year, this week. Carter Talley's going to in the 22 is going to be your 32nd position. Matt Crockett had some internet issues earlier in the race. He's going to finish 33rd. Steve Ulrich finishing 34th. That's kind of a surprise. He's usually farther up in there. I'm sure he had some issues. It looks like he's in the, down 29 laps as far as the race had went. After him, Lee Tankersley. He's going to finish 35th. David Leakey, 36. Biddy Hogan, who, had been showing some impressive stuff, early in the race, ended up finishing 37th, 55 laps down. Hunter Henry, Connor Zook, who we thought would be in a much higher position, happened to, I'm sorry, that must be, Kel and Connor must be brothers. I don't know if they are or not. I didn't know we had 2 Zooks in the field, so my apologies, guys. Looks like Connor's going to finish 39th. Jonathan Platten, 40th. Curtis Michaelis, 41st. Alex Bowser, 42nd. And Thomas Fenzer, 43rd. And tough break to some of our other guys like Charles Oberg. He wasn't able to make the field, but I look forward to seeing him back next week. Charles is a great driver, especially when it comes to short tracks. He'll be back. I wouldn't count those guys out at all.
Oh, absolutely. No, there are plenty of guys that are going to have a chip on their shoulder after this, and I'm looking forward to next week at the road course. I think it'll be something different, but after that, I think Atlanta's a little bit more up the sleeve of most of these drivers. I know plenty of guys. That's kind of the racers track. Guys love Atlanta.
Right.
That'll be a fun one. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I want to see how Brandon Jackson, Davey Hendricks, and Kevin Foster all run at Atlanta, which is a very similar track where you have multiple lanes that you can run in. It's a very fast track. Not sure how the setup corresponds with that track. I guess we'll see as we come. But we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. Next week we go to the Daytona road course, and that's going to bring some of the usual suspects back into play, like Mr. Nickerson himself, along with a few others, to see if they can try to spoil his homecoming party at that Daytona road course.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to it. It's always fun to see if guys give Nick some trouble there at the road course, because you can't make it too easy for him. But right now, I was going to leave a quick break before we hit into your interview segment, but Kevin Foster's still on track, and
he's still doing donuts. He's really happy with that second place finish, and our third place finish. Who could blame him? A guy who's been a while since he really made any noise, and to see him enjoying himself, good for him. A great paint scheme, great driver, really cool dude. Happy to see him happy. We can only hope for more of that. If more people had that much joy when it came to their racing, this would be a lot easier of a job for us.
Absolutely. Most certainly agreed on that one. And right now, he's still on track. So let's go straight into your interviews. I will pull him into the booth, and whoa, he almost killed Brandon Jackson there virtually a moment ago. He's having some fun. So let's pull him down, get our first interview of the night going, and I will talk to Mr. Kevin Foster, finishing third tonight at Homestead Miami. Hey, Kevin, it's Marshall up in the broadcast booth. You got me?
I got you. I'm just trying to get Brandon.
Oh, man. I was just about to say, we're going to go to a break, but you're having some fun down there, and I figure, what better time than, you and Brandon are messing around having some fun. So, Kevin, just one of the most competitive races we've seen in this season in a long time. We knew coming into the trucks you were going to feel more comfortable. What did you find out about the series today? From all these new faces, showing up, to guys like Brandon looked quick, guys like, all the usual faces. Cody Welch looked quick, but so did you. Do you feel more comfortable this season heading into the trucks, and what did this race tell you about the rest of your season going forward?
Yeah, the trucks are definitely a little easier to drive than last season, and I kind of wish we would have stuck with the Xfinity cars. I actually like those a lot more, but these trucks tend to, you have to be a little more patient as far as in the beginning of a run, to have some tires on the back side of the run. And tonight I did the opposite of that. I burned them up on the first half, and Davey got around me there with a couple laps to go, unfortunately, for second place. But this season, I'm already starting off way better than I did last season, and I'm looking forward to moving up a couple spots and taking home the victory here in the next couple races. But I love Homestead, though. Beautiful track.
Absolutely, it's a driver's track, and I know it's one of the favorites for everybody. And well, tonight, you didn't have an easy race per se. There was always something going on around you. So many new guys that were making a name for themselves there at the start. I know Stewart and Smith were definitely forces to be reckoned with there at the beginning. But towards the end of the race, Cody was starting to back off there a little bit with the tires. He kind of fell back through. But just walk us through that battle with Davey Hendricks. And is he somebody that you had a lot of experience with last season? And what was the battle like there with him coming to the final laps?
Yeah, me and Davey raced great last season, even in the first race. In the beginning of the run, I was half a tenth to a tenth faster in the first 10 laps or so, and then after that, I would just burn the right front up because I was running the low line and everyone else was running the high side, and so therefore on the back side of the run, he would definitely had the top line working, and he was able to get around me there. I probably could have blocked him a couple times, but that's not me. That's not what I'm about, and just want good clean racing, and that's what we gave the fans. And it's just I'll take third and be clean, then second and cause someone a wreck or do something stupid.
I respect that, and I think you could argue a couple more guys in this series need that mentality. But it's something you learn over time, and you're one of the most experienced guys in the series, so there's a good reason for that. But again, you take away a top five last week at Daytona and that chaotic race. I mean, you were like way back in the field coming to the final lap. You still come home for a top five. Tonight, you come home for a podium, another top five. And now we go back to Daytona, but we go for the road course next week. Do you think that top five streak is continuing? Are you going to take any notes from, fellow affiliated team member Mr. Nick Nickerson, master of the road course? How are you feeling for Daytona road course next week?
I feel pretty confident, especially in the trucks. They handle decent there. But yes, this week I'm definitely going to lean a lot on Nick and hopefully have a couple sessions with him, and he can walk me through some breaking points and where to get back on the throttle, and just learn from the said master at the road courses here in this Bandit Racing League. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully pays out next week in another top five.
I have the feeling it will. If you take some tips from you and you have that typical execution you always seem to have, you're one of the most flawless drivers in the series, and it's great to see you back on top and looking like a force to be reckoned with so far. So for the first time this season, but I would imagine in the next 22 races, probably not the last time. Well, Kevin, this is the opportunity in the interview. You get to give some shout outs to some people at home. You get to talk about some sponsors if you have any you want to mention, and just generally anything you want to say. This is your opportunity.
I want to thank Jay for coming on board and sponsoring the race team this year, and Big Red Propane. Yeah, Frank, appreciate that. Jay for Sweeney Out, so is also on the truck. And congratulations to my daughter for she sponsored the race. Moon Makes Customs. She's on the back of the truck here. And thanks to all the friends and family out there that support everyone, me and everyone in this league.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. And yes, shout out to your daughter. Shout out to you for sponsoring the race. It was so great to have them here, and it was one of the most fun sponsors I've seen. And certainly we talked about him quite a bit, but we'll talk about him again at the end of the broadcast. And well, also your truck, man, one of the best looking liveries I've ever seen. And you put it on the podium tonight, gave it plenty of airtime, and just I'd imagine there's a couple more spots there, but hard to have a night much better than this, Kevin. Great job tonight. Congrats on the podium. We'll see you next week at the road course, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, brother. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Yeah, congrats to Kevin. That was a great showing from him.
Woo.
Oh, a big breathe in and out there from Kevin Foster there towards the end of this interview. Back to the burnouts he goes. I'm trying to get him back up into his room here, but we'll wait on that for a moment. We'll get to that next, but for the time being, let me just do one quick thing before we get our second interview of the night going. This will be Mitch Sullivan, and just a sec. Let me just update one thing. Magic of video editing. And there we go. We are ready for the second interview of the night with Davey Hendricks coming home in second. Again, a hometown Floridian here from Jacksonville, Florida, and he gets the podium at Homestead Miami. Let me just pull him down into the booth, and we'll get our second interview of the night underway. Okay, well, Mitch, if you want to intro and get into our second interview, here is Davey Hendricks.
Hey, Davey, it's Mitch up in the booth. You got a copy?
I do.
Yes, sir, man. Man, what a heck of a drive from you tonight. You were kind of making your way through the field all the way, towards the end, and you really had a run on them. I know you came up short, but man, watching you drive through that field and make the moves that you made was something impressive, and it makes me think that if you would have started a little bit farther towards the front on that last restart, we might be talking about a different winner right here.
Maybe. Brennan still seemed to be pulling away from me. I mean, maybe, if I didn't have to race Kevin so hard or get through lap traffic, I could have had something for Brandon, but he seemed to be sailing off away from us for the majority of the race.
Yeah, for sure. He really was a tough contender to have to deal with. But that's 2 weeks in a row you've really had a strong showing. I know you got kind of caught up in some mayhem at Daytona, but being a typically good plate track racer and being able to come to a place like Homestead and have that kind of showing at a difficult track like this, that's got to have kind of a good feeling towards the rest of your season here. And as we go to a road course next week, I'm not sure, if that's kind of your forte or not, but if you think about past that, we've got Atlanta, and we're going to come up to some other tracks that kind of maybe favor your driving style as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't stand super speedway racing. It's the worst thing in the world to do in this game. Tracks like Homestead are great, multi-groove. It's not all single file racing throughout the whole deal. You can actually get side by side and make moves. Road courses, I mean, I don't dislike them. I quite like them. Not to probably the same extent as Nick does, but I like road courses. They're fun, they're challenging, they're different. But the next couple races, I'm looking forward to. Really, there's nothing I'm dreading until we get to either dirt or another super speedway.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to Knoxville. I know you may not be, but to see what you've done so far this year, even though you may not like super speedway racing, you really are very strong there, and it's really cool to kind of see someone be able to have such a good run over different courses of races, and it's been kind of a pleasure to watch you run not only last season but this season as well. So I know from my own perspective, you're one of the guys I think we should watch when it comes to over the course of the season because of the consistency. But good on you, man. Like, being able to compete with these guys, we have our top 10 guys are some pretty tough customers. So, being able to finish second at a place like Homestead, that's no small feat. And, it's really impressive.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, the field is super strong. I've definitely noticed that there's always a solid at least 5 guys, if not 10, that can come up there and challenge for a win in any given race. So it's fun to be able to, compete. I've got a good streak of, good finishes going. Even at Daytona, like y'all said, I flipped on the last lap, but I still somehow finished 7th. So there's that.
For sure. Out of our entire schedule, what track do you think it is you look forward to the most, or what maybe even style of track? Are you more of a short track guy, 1.5 mile guy? You already said you don't like speedways and you're kind of iffy when it comes to road courses. So what's really your forte?
I mean, probably the odd ones. Things like Darlington are fun. Dover's going to be interesting. Pocono, um, Chicagoland, for some reason, I seem to do pretty well there. So I mean, there's a spattering of races I think I'll do good at, but we'll see. We'll see if I can catch good luck throughout all of them.
For sure, you seem like have the similar taste that I have. You really like the oddball tracks. I love, it's a place like Pocono. I used to hate until I learned how to drive it. I love it a lot. And Darlington the same way. Once somebody teaches you how to drive the track the correct way, it becomes a whole different ball game from when you're trying to figure it out for yourself. But yeah, that's really good to hear. So, good luck to you in the rest of the season, man. You already had a strong showing as it goes. So, we're really rooting for you up here in the booth. You and the rest of the guys are giving us a really good entertainment value for our dollar as far as it goes down here. So good luck to you, man. And you want to give some shout outs to anybody, your sponsors, family, anything like that? Go ahead.
Yeah, just all the admins that put it on. I know they had to work extra hard this week because we had more than 43 drivers show up, so we had to do that whole 2-session deal. So props to them for doing all the work. Any sponsors that we have, Geezers, whoever, if someone sponsored tonight's race, nope, I don't think anyone did. But no, everyone watching at home, you guys up in the booth.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. We really appreciate it. And, good luck to you for the rest of the season, as we said before. And, yeah, man, can't wait to see what you do next. And good luck to you, buddy.
Thank you, man.
Thanks. Back to you, Marshall. Yes, sir. Yeah, buddy. I'm looking forward to this interview. This guy has really, like, really earned his spot when it comes to this race. It's just so amazing to see him pull off this kind of, win against the kind of competition he had. And man, I can't say enough for the 99. He's really, really impressed me. And I think he's a guy you might also want to throw into that top, echelon of people that you have to watch out for the rest of the season.
Oh, there we go. My mic wasn't even on. Sorry, it was like talking to nobody. Hey, I found it out early. I did it before we got the interview started. Look at me learning. Mic's on. I'm sorry about that. I turned it off during the interview. We're back. We're back for the important part. An interview with Mr. Brandon Jackson. The final interview of the night. Let's pull him into the booth and get this thing kicked off. Welcome to the booth, Mr. Brandon Jackson. We're missing a graphic very quickly. Let's just put something up. We're getting through it. Bear with me. Almost good. And...
It's going to be a heck of an interview. I'm excited for this. Brandon's really just shown us, like what's going to, what to expect from the guys who you knew he was going to be a contender, but to put on this kind of show with the kind of competition he's had is super impressive. Like, to be able to win at Homestead, one of the most difficult tracks on the circuit, and to be able to win in that kind of fashion where he's like almost 3 seconds ahead of the second place guy, even after, it wasn't like we had like 100 laps of open, green flag racing. He was able to do that on less than 50 laps to be able to pull ahead of everybody. It was just amazing.
It was indeed. And well, what better way to ask him about it than to do it in person? Here's Mr. Brandon Jackson. We'll pull him into the booth for the final interview of the night. Hey, Brandon, it's Marshall up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, there.
Brandon, buddy, like, what? Okay, so in one of the most competitive races we've ever seen, we find so many new competitors in the season, so many new competitors in the series. We go green for about 30 laps to end the race, and you win it by miles, man. Like, what happened there, man? Where did you find that pace at the end? And just talk us through that finish there as you're pulling away and not seeing the relative get any closer.
I love this track. This track is really up there on one of my favorite tracks of the season, really of any season, and just hitting my marks lap in and lap out, and it just comes natural, man. I still hate the trucks with a burning sensation, but I love this track, man. This track is hands down starting to become not the favorite, but one of my favorite tracks. You can race, you can pass, and the tire wears. It's just an awesome track. But just seeing me, I knew I was going to catch Cody. I figured he'd pit early, and the tires were going to be completely nowhere near where mine were when I got up to him. And honestly, once I came out of the pits and saw that Kevin or David or Davey, I'm sorry, didn't get any closer to me, I just was just going like, I'm just gonna hit my marks and we're just gonna set sail. I really didn't even look in the mirror, but just to make sure there was not a truck just coming out of nowhere. So, but this track is great, man. I love this place.
Yeah, it looked like it for good reason, man. You were able to conserve tires really well there at the end. I was impressed at how little wear you had after Cody came in early, tried the undercut, and had those valuable laps on new tires. And really, that was going to be the big question mark tonight, was how long could guys stay on a set of tires, and what were you doing to combat that? Like, what was your tire saving strategy, and do you think it'll be effective going forward to some of the other tire wear tracks like Atlanta in a few weeks?
My whole idea is just to not try to push the tires. You can find a nice groove lap in and lap out, and your tires won't wear if you're just taking it easy in through the center. But honestly, I feel like I had enough laps at this place just to understand what line I had to do and just how hard I needed to push. I mean, me and Nick at the start of the race were, just probably the only time I was racing somebody, and it was a lot of fun. And then the caution came out, and I went back there and I started to started to come through the field, I was just splitting guys through the middle and splitting them 3 wide, just being aggressive like I normally am, trying to get back to the front. And by the time those guys started pitting before the caution, I had caught up to them. So it's just a great track, and with guys battling, they're gonna wear their stuff up more, and I just like to get out in front and just run my own race, really.
Now, going forward, man, the first race that many would argue was the first real event of the season. Daytona was just a crapshoot for a lot of people, and you had some struggles there, but you figured it out tonight, and you bounced back. And after last season, you were a force to be reckoned with early. You had your wins early in the season. You were just constantly a competitor, but there by the end of the year, it started to fall off a little bit. You had your adversity there, and again, not necessarily always your fault. You were often getting caught up and stuff, but you have a strong start again. You're the first winner at a track other than a super speedway to start the year. Does this get the ball rolling? And what are you going to do to combat last year to make Action Jackson the name we're putting on the trophy plaque at the end of the season?
I'm gonna stay out. I'm gonna stay the hell out of the middle and the back half of the field. I can say that for sure. Yeah, it's just a death sentence back there. But after what I went through last season, late in the season, when the playoffs, just get up front and stay up front. Yeah, I don't want to be past like 15th place. It's just a write off at that point. And I mean, from what I heard, Nick went back there and he had his struggles. So it goes to show you that just being back there with a lot more trucks instead of being up here with the guys that we normally race around week in and week out, it's different. It's a lot hectic, but you got to be aggressive to get through there. And that's why I try to get out of there after that first caution. But my biggest thing is stay out front, do what I did tonight, and I will have no problems.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to jump in real fast. Brandon, like I've noticed, since I joined the league, you're like the guy who kind of cheerleads everybody else on. Like it's so cool to see that somebody who is so willing to like just kind of pump up the field, like at the first of the race, to come through and win like that, and they have that kind of skill. It's just awesome to see. Like I know you're a really popular win for the rest of us, here that have been here for long enough. It's just really cool to see. And like I want to know, like, how do you keep that kind of positive attitude, even when things are gonna going bad for you?
I don't think I keep it a good attitude when things are going bad. I think I just kind of go down the hole. But you just gotta. I'm very bad at seeing it to the end of the race if I start struggling, but normally if I got to that point, I tend to drive even more aggressive, more frustrated, and it gets me to the front half the time. Other than half the times I'm ending up backwards on my roof. So it's just you gotta. For me, when I get frustrated, I get quiet when I'm racing, and then if I get quiet, people have always told me if I get quiet, it's a bad sign for the rest of the field. So maybe I should be mad a lot more.
Something to think about. I'd love to see what an entire season of upset Brandon Jackson would look like in the points. I'd imagine the natural talent, the sheer natural abilities there would come through, and you'd be fine. But well, see, I'm not going to ask because you're on a high. You're looking happy. I'm not going to ask you about the road courses, so I'm just going to jump that question for now. But you know how the interviews go, man. You've been here plenty of times. Sponsors, people to shout out, anything you want to talk about. And if you want to wrap your thoughts on Daytona Road Course into, less than 10 minutes, just feel free. This is your time, man.
I got to thank everybody coming out and watching the broadcast. Again, like I normally say, I don't have many fans out there, but for those I do have, hope y'all are happy tonight.
You definitely made a few tonight. You got a few more fans than you had before, for sure. Myself included.
I hope so. I try to make it interesting, but we're just here to have fun. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. So with that being said, like I said, thank everybody coming out watching the broadcast, all the admins. We were working hard to fix the qualifying issue that we had last week, so we got that all sorted. So gotta give a good shout out to all of us, and then just you taking over the broadcast. I didn't get to talk to you last week, so I just want to give a shout out for you and Mitch taking over the broadcast. It's good to have somebody out there watching us, putting on the show, putting on all the hard work behind the scenes. So glad y'all are here. Hopefully you're here for a long time instead of a good time. So, and just I thank anybody who watches on my Twitch. If you watch my Twitch, I also thank you. There's not many of y'all, but I love y'all. So with that being said,
We'll be definitely following you in the future on your Twitch for sure. Like I want you to DM me your Twitch ID so I can add you for sure.
I got you. But I think Evan for the beautiful truck. He painted the Xfinity car last season as well, so he does a really good job. If you need a paint scheme, hit up Evan Wall Media. He's a good buddy. But after that, man, I'm about to go have fun in the streets of Miami.
We'll give you the chance to do so. Go have fun, Brandon. Go party, and it's always a pleasure to have the Reaction Jackson segment be the winner's interview. It just makes sense, and it's giving you a prime platform for our favorite segment. So thank you, Brandon. Just an awesome race tonight. Keep it going next week as well as you can into Daytona Road Course, and get your butt in the late models race next Tuesday, man. It's no fun winning if you're not there. So okay, get over there. I'll talk to you soon, man. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Later.
And that was, as always, Mr. Brandon Jackson. What a pleasure.
Yes,
what a guy. What a driver. And, oh, man, what a race. That was a great time, Mitch. And after
That
last
was
week at
great.
Daytona,
We're 2 for 2 on great races. Like the first 2 races of the season have been awesome.
hey,
Like I
man,
can't complain from a spectator standpoint. They've been spectacular. It's been awesome to watch.
yeah, they have just been absolute barn burners. And, yeah, if you at home are not enjoying the first 2 races of the season, like, put us aside. Maybe we're terrible. The races themselves
Right.
have been great. So hopefully we're doing them
Just
justice
put it
here.
on mute if we're that bad, because the races themselves, like, you can't take anything away from that.
Yes.
These guys have put on a show, and more power to them. Like, wow, if this is what we've got from the first 2 races, what can we expect from the next few?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Exactly. Absolutely. Just, wow. I can't wait for next week going forward. Let me just get my final stuff here ready. So there is your final results once again for tonight's event. Brandon Jackson gets the win at Homestead Miami in the Moo Makes 100. Again, we will talk about Moo Makes very quickly before we head off the air in just a moment. But Davey Hendricks, Kevin Foster round off your top 3. Cody Welch and Ricky Hart round off your top 5. There is your order tonight. And, well, before we go, just very quickly, got a few shout-outs I got to make, because, you know, it would be more fitting if we had the winning driver be the final interview of the night, but just got a few things to go over. So first of all, Brandon thanked him for me as well, but thank you to Evan Wall. You know, he does so much behind the scenes. This season has kind of moved into that, you know,
For sure.
background, you know, producer information role. He's usually our pit reporter, but tonight we just didn't get the chance to talk to him in person. But we'll fix that for next week. We'll get him.
And
in
a
the booth.
great pit reporter. He gave us great information throughout the race, so I can't say enough about Evan.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't see everything he does. Some of it is behind the scenes, but it's so great to have him doing what he does, and yeah, just such a fun guy to talk to. Again, he does so many of the graphics as well for the series, so that's another thing we got to shout him out for there, because yeah, just some great stuff. Anything you see on screen right now is his, and the fact that the pictures don't quite fit in the frame is something we'll figure out going forward. That's not a fault of his. So shout out to him. His website is linked in the description down in the YouTube side of things. So feel free to click there if you have any inquiries. If you want an iRacing paint, if you want any sort of graphic stuff, he does so many paints for so many guys in the series. So you've probably seen his work there every race without knowing it. So, and again, does the graphics for this series, gives us some info. What a guy! So great to have him. Now for the sponsor again, to the Moo Makes 100 tonight. Thank you for Moo Makes, Kevin Foster's daughter. Particularly can't remember her name. I feel really bad about that, but yeah, she runs Moo Makes. It's a t-shirt design company. They do all sorts of different stuff. If you go to their Instagram, there's all sorts of cool designs there. It's a really fun, you know, kind of, you know, individually owned store. And I know personally, rather than supporting the you know, businesses with the terrible shipping costs and just, you know, terrifying mass production facilities, there's not as much customization I've noticed with other places.
Right.
And if we were ever to, well, I think we are, you know, having some sort of partnership going forward. But if I was ever to get a t-shirt for the Bandit Racing League, I'd want it to be something a little more handmade, a little more lovingly created.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, give the kids some money. Yeah, honestly, like support this small business. Like, this is a great cause. So yeah, good job for Moo Makes.
Absolutely. So their information's in the description. It's their Instagram, but once you get there, you'll find all their info. And I'm sure if you send them some messages, you can contact them about some inquiries. But thank you to them. They're our first proper sponsor of the season. Of course, last two Geezer Authentics and you know, Bill Harkins particularly, and then obviously my Full Send Racing Network channel. So it's great to have our first sponsor of the season. We got a ton of sponsors this season, which is incredible. I mean, the racing is justifying it for now, but if you are curious in a race towards the end of the year, I'll give some more information next race if there's any interest as well into sponsoring a race late in the season, so you can have your name plastered on the race. You get your logo there at the beginning, done once again by Evan Wall Media, and you'll be sure to get plenty of shoutouts, plenty of information through the description. So feel free to contact us about that if you're interested. But other than that, just to round it off, thank you, Mitch. Your second race in a row, man. Just
Yes,
we
sir.
talked about it a minute ago, but what a way to start the season. 2 great races.
Yes.
And how did this for you compare to Daytona last week? And are you looking forward to your first road course commentary performance next week?
I don't know what to think about the road course. It's going to be a lot to live up to when it comes to Daytona and Homestead, but I'm looking forward to it. I love road racing. I'm not near as good when it comes to road racing as I may be at short tracks or dirt tracks, but I have an innate passion for it. I grew up watching Ayrton Senna when it comes to F1, so road courses to me are like where it all begins. Ovals to me are just kind of an afterthought, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I know we know Nick's going to be strong, but who else can maybe show themselves to be a contender when it comes to the road courses? We may have somebody in the lineup that we haven't even thought about or haven't even mentioned, who may have a road course kind of like a specialty that we may need to look out for. So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Again, keep an eye on Aaron Smith. He's the name I keep hearing thrown around about road course abilities, and he was great tonight. Finished in the top 10, was dominant there at the beginning. So keep an eye out for him going forward. He's somebody I'm looking forward to. But, that'll about round it off tonight. We're going to get ready to head off to Daytona Road Course next week. Again, we're going to pack the virtual trucks up, go another 40 miles back the other way, back to Daytona. We've set the season up to be a little bit more geographical, so you're kind of staying in the same area in the real world there, which is, I think, a nice touch, and it'll be nice to go back to Daytona after such a fun start to the season. So again, for the entire Bandit Racing League, also thank you to Bill Harkins, our series coordinator, all the drivers. Again, Brandon Jackson wins his first race of the season in the Moon Makes 100 at Homestead Miami Speedway. Here, before we go off, is your championship for the rest of the season. Here is your, there's the schedule going forward for the rest of the year. And again, next week, Daytona International Speedway Road Course, Atlanta, Bristol, Knoxville, and Milwaukee, and that'll take us to the end of August. So for the entire crew here at Full Send Racing Network, myself and Mitch Sullivan and Evan Wall Media there, doing all sorts of stuff for us in the background. Thank you for watching the Moon Makes 100 at Homestead Miami, and we will see you next week at the Daytona Road Course. Have a good week, guys.
Woo pig.